95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Today is not like yesterday in NFL free agency. We made it through this free agency frenzy.
Hey, business is business.
It is. Epinesa trying to chase him down, and he gets him. He makes the sack. A.J. Epinesa.
And how about sack number 9 for Daquan Jones?
The Bills have restructured the contract of quarterback Josh Allen.
I would expect them to be signing a wide receiver.
Mike Danger.
Does Brandon Beane go big game hunting? Can he go big game hunting here now that he's afforded himself all of these moves and a little bit of room here to negotiate and navigate?
Gene Battaglia.
Now you actually need to kind of look at the tackle position. If you have to say what's next for the Buffalo Bills here, that would be the position.
Today's probably a good day for the Bills to sign a safety.
Naheem Hines!
9 times.
Since he will trade Mixon instead to the Texans.
Derrick Henry with the Ravens.
Seth Appert with the state of the team.
It's Buffalo-Detroit tonight.
Spring training injuries always seem worse.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Hey, we welcome you into the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia. Another afternoon of fantastic sports talk in the Flower City queued up for you. And ready here at 95.7 FM, AM 950, the free-to-download Odyssey app, your smart device, when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. And we've even got our video stream up for you. You can watch the Sports Bar on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, also streaming on Twitch. And our phone number, call us at any time, 866-4326, 585-8664-FAN. I am Danger, that is Battaglia.
Yeah, boy, free agency, like if we had a big shock so far, usually this is the time, whoa, I didn't see that trade coming. I didn't see that team going after this player. I feel like we've had kind of a beat here on everything for the most part.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because of the information age that we're in where, you hear rumblings and whispers and breaking news is breaking news, but somebody knows that breaking news well in advance of breaking that news. If there's a problem with the way this has gone so far here, this legal tampering period, guys like you and I shouldn't be sitting in our cozy studio predicting what's going to happen seconds before it happens, right? I mean, some of this should be unpredictable. We shouldn't know if we know the tendencies of an NFL GM or an organization, then the rest of the league knows those tendencies better than we do.
Yeah, I made a joke last night online. I'm like, okay, ready to go to bed here, basically, but I know Brandon Beane isn't, and sure enough, woke up. Oh, there you go.
There's the restructure and the
Daquan Jones happening around midnight. So, there are patterns, but honestly, to say, hey, Gabe Davis is going to go play for his former position coach, like, there are things that have been predictable.
We did it yesterday. I mean, yesterday, as soon as San Francisco signed Leonard Floyd, I said, look, now you've got 2 outgoing free agents to 0 that you've signed if you're the Buffalo Bills. Now they're going to start signing their own guys so they can get that extra draft pick in the compensatory formula in 2025. That matters to the Bills. That matters to a lot of teams. They want those extra draft picks. That's like found money if you're able to convince your outgoing free agents to stay with you. They did it with Epinesa 5 minutes after we said that, and then, of course, Daquan Jones later on that night.
Yeah, because it doesn't count at all.
That's right.
Where if you brought in an Armstead, say, for the Niners, we could debate, is he better for this team than Daquan Jones? Well, ultimately, in the yes or no box, on the no column, you're going compensatory formula for something like that.
Yeah, and it matters. So both of those moves, whether we're talking A.J. Epinesa late as we were getting off the air yesterday, Daquan Jones later in the evening, or the restructure of Josh Allen, these are all moves that were well calculated in advance, and the Bills find themselves now out of cap purgatory and ready for the new league year to start. It doesn't mean that they've got a ton of space to work with here, but they can say when the league year begins tomorrow, like every other team, we are compliant. So there's that. Another $16.7 million in cap space added with that restructuring of Josh Allen's quarterback. And by the way, with his annual average being what it is, at some point, Josh Allen's going to get a new deal, right?
If they're talking about $50 million, $50 million for Tua Tagovailoa as your average annual value. Yeah, at some point you want to do right by Josh Allen. Win the thing. That's what I would say. That would be the time. You win it all, then you take care of a few guys because then we'll be satiated. Be like, okay, yeah, we won.
Did you see his cap number for 2025?
It's much lower.
No.
25.
For 25.
Oh, no, I haven't
You
seen
have any idea what it is?
60?
Yeah, 60.7.
Yeah.
60.7 for 2025. At some point, Josh Allen's going to get a new deal. And we can start this roller coaster all over again, this madness all over again. For Daquan Jones, 2 years, $16 million, $10.5 million in guarantees. So he's been great in Buffalo the last 2 seasons. He had 1 year in Carolina. Remember we talked to Daquan. He didn't really want to talk about that 1 year in Carolina. And,
yeah.
You start to see patterns emerge. Carolina's kind of a mess.
The fact that they could have gotten multiple number ones for Brian Burns as soon as last year, and now the Giants pick him up for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
If there's a surprise in free agency, maybe it's that the Giants went big on the defensive line there when you pair him up now with Thibodeau. But no, Carolina is an absolute mess right now.
We'll go through all of the free agent signings and all of the moves that have been made here during the legal tampering period shortly. And there's another long list today, as there was yesterday, of moves to dissect and go through and kind of analyze. Seth Appert, the head coach of the Rochester Americans, stops by, as he does every Tuesday afternoon, later this afternoon, 4:25 for the Amerks head coach.
Yeah, the team is back in Syracuse tomorrow night, so we'll talk to the coach about, again, you split with the Crunch last weekend, but now the Marlies come in for a home and home. And this one's kind of big. There's just 15 games left in the regular season. The team the Amerks are right ahead of, only by 1 point, the Toronto Marlies. So we'll get the thoughts of the coach. And now that the roster's kind of some new faces here, too, we got a review here as after the trade deadline, a few guys going up. We'll get the thoughts of Seth coming up in the 4 o'clock hour.
And as far as NFL Buffalo Bills beat reporters, I should say, as far as Bills beat reporters go, this guy gets the gold star for his efforts during last week's bloodletting and everything that's been going on. Matt Perino, while on vacation last week, not letting his duties as a Bills beat reporter go and reporting everything and jumping on the podcast with Ryan Talbot. And he'll be joining us to recap what has been a wild 7 days for the Buffalo Bills, legal tampering, some of these signings, and of course everything that's gotten them to the start of free agency in the new league year, which gets underway in the NFL tomorrow. He is the host of the Shout podcast, Matt Perino of the Syracuse Post-Standard, stopping by here in less than 20 minutes.
Okay, how much are you going to geek out on Disney? That's going to like how many minutes do I allow you to do that?
I can't promise you. I will want to know a lot of things. Because it looked like he had a blast. I'm jealous. He also looked like he had to do a road trip back to town, which is my preferred way of going down south.
I would think, though, if you already bought the tickets and your flight gets canceled, and just the photo is actually pretty funny because the kids are passed out in the back. His wife is, and Matt looks tired too. It's like, okay, get us home by this point. Yeah, Danger, nobody likes the trip home, not whether it's from Disney or from the beach or from wherever. So we'll talk to Matt Perino as he's getting back into the swing of things. What a week to take off, too, by the way.
No doubt.
So he flew from Indy down to Florida. Matt Perino joining us here shortly.
You can engage with us on X at the Fan Rochester, but only if you want to say nice things. One of our regulars, Chris, just coming out of the gates hot, watching the video stream on our YouTube channel. What is the look Mike Danger is going for today? Seattle grunge scene meets Mr. Rogers' neighborhood? I don't appreciate that.
That's a quality tweet, Chris. Don't listen to Danger over here.
I don't know. What about Gino? He's wearing practically the same shirt I am. A little flannel,
No, I'm not wearing a...
This is a hoodie.
It's a hoodie, but on camera, it looks like a Mr. Rogers.
Looks like a cardigan?
Yeah.
It's a hoodie, Chris.
Show that there's an actual hoodie behind you.
I'm taking fashion criticism from South Central Kentucky?
Whoa.
Get out of here, man. None of us, by the way, are trotting the runways of Milan, so let's just ease up a little bit.
Yeah, you're in the sports bar here. Like, you don't come here. You want Oscars talk? Go somewhere else.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the list of moves here around the NFL with the Buffalo Bills as well. We mentioned the restructure of Josh Allen. We mentioned the signing of Daquan Jones. We did not mention that former Bills running back Nyheim Hines is now on his way to Cleveland. That's Nyheim Hines on a 1-year deal worth up to $3.5 million. Now, because Hines was released before the start of the league year, this isn't one that will count towards your compensatory draft pick formula. But you see Hines now in a crowded backfield there in Cleveland getting a shot on a 1-year deal that's low risk for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I hope. I think any Bills fan should hope because, a freak accident costing last season. He's going to go down as having a unique tenure for the Buffalo Bills.
One of the most memorable plays in franchise history.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, just delivering, and how much would he have delivered last year? We'll never know the answer to that. So hopefully he can rebound with Cleveland. That's not the only former Buffalo Bill making news today.
Yeah, Zach Moss gets a 2-year, $8 million deal with the Bengals, so he'll lead that backfield because the Bengals moved on from Joe Mixon. They were going to release him, and instead he's been traded to Houston. It looks like that'll be a late-round pick returning back to Cincinnati. So former Bills running back Zach Moss, the guy that was the piece in that Nyheim Hines deal in the 2022 season, after doing well last year and exceeding expectation, I would say, in Jonathan Taylor's absence in Indianapolis last season, Zach Moss will get a shot in the Cincinnati backfield.
Do we, meaning we, I don't coach or play for the team, but did the Buffalo Bills give up too soon on Zach Moss? Because to me, Sean McDermott, if there is one position with this team that if you make a mistake, you put the ball on the carpet, you take a seat there. And Devin Singletary's had a pretty nice career since leaving Buffalo. And Zach Moss now getting paid in a different spot. And I just kind of recall last year, James Cook, who had a fantastic season for the Buffalo Bills. Yes, he left some plays on the field, but there's also a Denver game on a Monday night where he put it on the turf really, really soon. And we didn't see him for an extended period of time.
Yeah, I don't know that they missed on Moss or gave up on Moss or Singletary. I think that Cook is the guy that they wanted all along. That's the kind of back that I think they want for this offense. Somebody that is more dynamic out of the backfield and somebody that can also rip off 8-10 yard chunks up the middle. He's not a bruiser. He's fluid, but his ability to catch balls out of the backfield, well, that's when he catches balls out of the backfield. It was a good season for James Cook, and I think that's more in line with what they've always wanted.
Right. As your primary guy, I always thought that Moss was going to be the Frank Gore type of running back. I'm between the tackles, and maybe last year it was Murray a little bit. Murray, he's not coming back next year, but Audric Estime, I think the Bills, if they don't do anything in free agency, they're going to have to explore here in the draft the running back.
Well,
position.
You want to talk about the big bruising back between the tackles. One of the best of all time is now in Baltimore. That's Derrick Henry. It's a 2-year deal with a value of up to $20 million. A team that knows how to run the football now has one of the best to ever run the football in the NFL in their backfield.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of mileage there, though, because what is the stat there? Since 2018, leading the NFL in rushing yards amongst running backs, Derrick Henry. Since 2019, leading the league here in running back yardage, quarterback rushing yardage, Lamar Jackson. So, again, free agency so far, not a surprise. This is the kind of the destination. In fact, you go back to the trade deadline last year, that wouldn't have been a surprise. So Henry landing in Baltimore, absolutely not a surprise. The Titans, in case you missed it, they picked up Tony Pollard.
Yeah, yesterday we talked about that. That's the 3-year, $24 million deal. I think he got the same deal that DeAndre Swift got in Chicago yesterday.
What are we doing here with that money?
The running back market, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know that I have a theory on whether or not the game is changing, like you're investing more in running back because teams want to run the ball more, or if it's that you're seeing more kind of short-term deals with higher value to them in the short term, right? When was the last time you saw a running back get an extended amount of time?
Like in terms of years of Christian McCaffrey, LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah.
Like those are the types of guys that were
Zeke in Dallas.
Yeah, you're not going to get the big bonus. Here you go. I can't even remember the running back with the Rams there, but he flamed out with
Cam Akers.
No, I'm going back even further than
Todd
that.
Gurley.
Todd Gurley. Yeah, like that. Like those guys got paid, and then oh my gosh, what are we doing 1 year into it? is it because San Francisco, this was their model that, hey, we paid a running back?
Well, it's always been a constant that in the postseason you need to be able to run the football, especially if you're in Buffalo, if you're in the Northeast, if you're in the North, you're going to rely on that run game. So teams like Cincinnati and Pittsburgh and Baltimore and Buffalo should place an emphasis on the run game, but I do like that teams are wising up and saying, it's best to have that cost-controlled value at the position for the first 4 years while they're still fresh and not as beat up. Derrick Henry on a deal that's worth up to $20 million, great for Derrick Henry, but is it value? And I don't know that it is for the Baltimore Ravens because of how much tread is on those tires.
Well, if they've had worse contracts, I look at OBJ.
Yeah,
like who can offer you more, even if the floor, Derrick Henry can offer Baltimore more than OBJ. Another theory was it's just how things kind of played out. So Philadelphia has a hole to fill, and they go poach. You would say can you say a top 5 running back? Sure. Like Saquon Barkley is a fantastic playmaker.
Yeah.
And it's a double whammy. You improve at that position if you're Philadelphia. You hurt the New York Giants. And then the New York Giants have to say, whoa, we need something. Hey, there's another Buffalo Bill. We're talking about Moss. We're talking about Nyheim Hines. Devin Singletary landing with the New York Giants. We talked about that, and just maybe that is a surprise that I didn't even think it would be the running back position, the dominoes to fall the way they
There's
are.
a lot of names out there. I mean, Aaron Jones gets released by the Packers yesterday. He's set to sign with the Vikings on a 1-year, $7 million deal. Again, you can eat $7 million and think that you'll get that production out of Aaron Jones. His knock is, can he stay healthy? He had a hard time doing that in Green Bay, but now he gets to face his former team twice next season on this 1-year deal. It's not a long-term commitment. It's come on in and let's see what you can do because you're at the end of your career, not the beginning. So I think teams are just changing the way they view that position and have always changed. If you can get value out of every position, you would take it. And the best way to get value out of the running back position is to not invest a ton of money in that position because you can find that production almost anywhere. You can find it in the draft. You can find it in the undrafted kids. You can find it via a 1-year deal in a trade or whatever in free agency. And we've seen a lot of that happen so far this round here. Austin Eckler, another one, 2-year deal up to almost $11.5 million, right? And another guy who's, he's been in the league a while. He's the Chargers' third leading rusher, and I think third in touchdowns and rushing touchdowns, I want to say, behind LT and somebody else I think is on that list.
Wait, you mean like a big, powerful runner?
Yeah.
Like the Bills could use? Like
yeah.
Chuck Muncie?
Something like that. Are you going to wear your shirt on draft night?
I think I might. Are you wearing yours?
Yeah, I could be coaxed into that. That's a move for the Commanders there, who lost Antonio Gibson. So the Commanders now on a 2-year deal, just under 11.5 for Austin Eckler. Okay, so you mentioned the Burns trade. He's headed to the Giants. The Panthers get a 2nd and a 5th round pick. Burns gets what he wanted, a long-term deal, 5 years with a maximum value of $150 million, with $87.5 million guaranteed. The Giants investing in a pass rusher. Some would say they might need to invest in the offensive line, but they have now a pass rusher. Patrick Queen is going to stay in the AFC North. He will play in Pittsburgh on a 3-year, $41 million contract. Queen, that feels rich for Patrick Queen. But the Steelers now have another piece on defense there. And again, if you believe that weakens Baltimore and strengthens the Steelers, then you take that all day if you're the Steelers. Back to the offensive side of the ball with Atlanta agreeing on a 3-year deal with Darnell Mooney, former receiver of the Bears. $39 million, $26 million fully guaranteed. Lots of 3-year, $39 million deals for receivers.
Yeah, this just came across. And again, it's not a big name, but there is a punchline that I just love here. Dante Fowler of Dallas, formerly of Dallas, had 10 sacks over the last 2 years. He's the latest to follow Dan Quinn to Washington as he gets an offer from the Commanders, but some are not calling them the Washington Commanders. They're calling them the Cowmanders.
Oh, I guess now the Commanders are actually the Cowmanders. All right. I think we can do better than that. Maybe we can't.
No.
Backup quarterbacks, very popular today. Let's go through this list quickly, as Kirk Cousins wasn't going to land in Minnesota. So instead, it'll be Sam Darnold on a one-year deal, $10 million.
What? $10 million for Sam Darnold?
Yeah.
Good for Sam Darnold. Minnesota, what? Why? What? What are you doing?
Can't tell me that's going to be your starter. 1 year, $10 million for a backup. Jameis Winston will back up Deshaun Watson. He'll be in Cleveland on a 1-year deal worth up to 8.7. As predicted in the sports bar, Jacoby Brissett is going back to New England. That's an $8 million deal that could be pushed up to $12 million with incentives.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I'm scared.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Here come the Patriots.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Marcus Mariota, who spent last season with the Eagles, and he actually appeared in 3 games in relief of Jalen Hurts. He's going to be an option at quarterback for those Commanders now that he has signed a 1-year deal with a base value of $6 million, a maximum of $10 million. And I'm saving the best for last because he will play for his 7th NFL team now, backing up Aaron Rodgers in the New York Jets. Tyrod Taylor. There was another Jets backup signing today, too, I want to say, to go with Tyrod Taylor. I have to look back and see who that was. But the Taylor deal is cheap because the terms of the deal were not reported. So Taylor basically clinging to his chances of latching on with the team here after playing in New York with the Giants.
Yeah, they were having fun on Maggie and Perloff this morning because they did pick up a guard, John Simpson, from the Ravens there. So, yeah, the Jets are getting things straight there.
Yeah, let's get to Matt Perino.
Tongue is in cheek.
Yeah. Who is the quarterback that they also signed? They signed another guy, too. Drew Lock signed with the Giants. I should mention that. Drew Lock will be backing up Daniel Jones, and it doesn't mean that the Giants won't be interested in a quarterback in the draft. We'll see how that goes as well. It's going to drive me nuts. I'll try to remember who it is.
Dude, I don't see anything here. So,
and what, am I making it up?
I think you might have been out too late last night. Maybe.
That's a bold assumption.
You're starting to dream about this stuff?
That's a bold assumption, man.
I was out too late last night. So.
We'll get to Matt Perino here of the Syracuse Post-Standard and the Shout podcast. We'll get his thoughts on all of these Buffalo Bills moves made here during legal tampering. And but really what's gone on here in the last 7 days with this team kind of turning over its roster in some respects and bringing back some familiar names in others. Matt Perino stops by the Sports Bar next.
You're listening to the Sports Bar. update.
Daquan Jones, A.J. Epineza both coming back to the Buffalo Bills. They are off the free agent market. Epineza talking today, sharing his upcoming goals.
I would say my goals for sure this year is I want to earn a starting spot on the defensive line and continue progressing my game with stats, whether that be more sacks, more snaps, and just overall production. So I'm ready for more, and I'm looking forward to taking on more responsibility.
Where do the Bills go from here? We'll talk to Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard and the Shout podcast. He joins us next in the Sports Bar. Another busy day in the NFL. Derrick Henry signing with the Baltimore Ravens. The former Titans running back gets 2 years. Former Bills running back Naeem Hines signing a 1 year up to $3.5 million with the Cleveland Browns. Zach Moss goes to the Bengals. Joe Mixon traded to Houston. Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, The Fan, Rochester.
Straight up, no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
It was definitely weird going into it. Free agency, a lot of things are in the dark. You're just kind of wondering what teams are going to want you and wondering what teams are going to, if Buffalo's going to want you back in my situation, So it was definitely keeping me on my toes until this past Monday, until yesterday, So just being anxious and looking forward to it. But it's been exciting, and I'm really pleased with how it turned out.
We welcome in Matt Perino, covering the Buffalo Bills for the Syracuse Post-Standard and the Shout podcast as well. There he is, A.J. Epineza, back with the Buffalo Bills. Matt, I want to talk a lot about what's gone on here the last 7 days with the Buffalo Bills, but I first want to know how your vacation was, buddy. I mean, let me geek out a little bit here as a Disney dad like yourself. Did you have a good time at the most magical place on earth? Did the family have a good time? And tell me about that road trip back.
Oh, dude. I mean, it felt like two different pieces of time because the week in Disney was magical all the way up until our final day at the park, Magic Kingdom. My daughter turned 6 years old that day. She had they did the whole nine. They got her dressed up like a princess. They did her hair, all the things. It was the perfect day. Got back to the house at like 8:30, and at 10 o'clock, my son started puking. So the next 12 hours. Oh. And it was one of those all-nighters in the bathroom, tagging in and out with my wife. Just a stomach bug for the ages. And then our flight gets canceled, so we have to rent a car and drive back, because she had to get back to work. And so, because I could kind of do my job from anywhere. That's kind of the luxury of this thing. But we had to get back. So we hop in the car. My son just gets back to the point where, like, he's at least able to like go out and take him to the airport, go through all that. We get about halfway through the ride, and then my daughter starts throwing up, in the car driving back. And then we get to PA about an hour and a half away, and we hit this unbelievable snowstorm, and then I start throwing up.
Oh my God.
It's this unbelievable, series of events that leads to, getting back here yesterday morning and absolutely collapsing on my couch. I was dead man walking yesterday. Like, I could not even stand up, which was perfect timing for the start of free agency. But I'm bouncing back today. I'm back in a big way, ready to talk some Bills.
Yeah, Matt, I guess my one question before we get to the Bills is this, because so many of us, myself included, what's the balance when you're on a family vacation but work comes knocking? I mean, like, our fathers didn't have to deal with this stuff. They went on vacation, but Matt, you're down in the best place, for a family vacation, many would say, and yet so much Bills news was happening while you were down there.
Well, I think me and my wife were talking about this. We learned a valuable lesson, and we're not going to go on vacation the week before free agency next year, just in case. Maybe not the best timing. But when you're going, I mean, Danger knows, when you're planning these trips, I mean, especially when you're coordinating with family, finding the perfect spot for everybody never is really possible.
Correct.
So it was a wild week, and luckily the day that everything happened with all the releases was our off day, our pool day. So I was able to kind of we were all relaxed and chilling anyway, and I kind of had to just punch in. That's kind of that's the gig too.
All right, so let's go back to last Wednesday because I think that was a transformational day. We'll talk about the moves that were made that day that have led to the moves that we've had here over the course of the last couple of days. The Mitch Morse thing, it feels like that was universally kind of surprising to a lot of people that are close to this team. And I know Gino is curious as to how Brandon Beane was able to talk Von Miller into taking the kind of deal that he is going to play under here in 2024. Your thoughts on last Wednesday, the red wedding for Brandon Beane?
Yeah, so I think the Von Miller question is actually a cool place to start because I think the seeds for this kind of relationship have been planted over the last couple of years, and it goes back to the way that Beane and Miller have kind of gotten close on the scouting trail, right? Like Miller wants to be a GM on the other side of this, so he's kind of brought him along and almost like been a mentor to him in that way. And I think they have a closer relationship than most GM/star players. Not to mention, then you throw in the fact that when everything happened with Vaughn in November, the Bills stood by him. And, they have the Matt Araiza situation in the history there that, they moved off of him, obviously different circumstances and a much different situation. But again, something that, at the time was not really painted in a very good light. Now, the Bills, I asked Brandon about this at the Combine, about where they're at in terms of being comfortable with what they know about Von Miller still. And he doubled down on it even more, saying that all the information that they have, they feel like they made the right decision then and sticking with him now. So I think when you come to the table then and start to talk about what's best for the organization, all the money that you have made, Von Miller has been very upfront about the fact that he underperformed last year. And I think you say, listen, you got to take less money here. Give us a chance to at least add, compete. We're doing all this other things. We're hopeful that you can get back to the guy that you're going to be, and we're going to write it into the deal that we're going to give you incentives that if you do, you're still going to get paid. But this just seemed like the best possible scenario. The Morse thing, it's interesting because Mitch Morse, to me, I think I've talked about this with you guys in the past. Whenever you start talking about retirement, professional athletes, I always feel like that's the beginning of the end. And I think it was like 2 years ago when, Mitch was going through all those, the concussion issues, and that kind of starts to creep in and you start kind of contemplating things like that. And then he goes into this stretch of 2 years where he's pretty healthy, right? Like to the point where going into this offseason, I don't think anybody's thinking about that anymore. But, just to think about, we were a couple of years removed from thinking, all right, we could be in the final stages of his career. Now he's going on to Jacksonville. He signs a 2-year deal. I didn't anticipate them moving on from Mitch Morse, but the more we've gotten into this over the last week, the more it kind of makes sense, especially, with the belief that Connor McGovern can play that position. David Edwards never felt to me like a backup player. And that's why when I put him as my number 2 priority for the Bills coming into this offseason, it was based on the fact that, okay, you have McGovern and Torrance, but he's one play away from becoming your starting guard, and he becomes a real luxury at that spot. And now placing him as starting left guard, it kind of makes a little bit more sense. It's a tough decision. Brandon Beane has to make tough decisions at this stage of this build. Any kind of emotional decisions, I think, can really cost you and can set you back. And obviously that probably brings us to Trey White, which, for weeks and weeks I was talking about this being a real possibility and people talking about the dead money and what he meant to the organization and all those things. And I get all that. And I'm sympathetic to all of that. But you have a salary cap situation that was very dire that needed to be fixed. And I just don't know if you can gamble on Trey White getting back to the player that he was, all while, footing the bill that contract presented.
Yeah, we are talking to Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard. The Shout podcast will tell you when the next one would drop. Another surprise to me, and you could say, well, it's not a surprise that Jordan Poyer got released, knowing the age. And I think, Matt, with the idea that Micah Hyde, we still don't know what his plans are, but if Hyde were to return, that would be a surprise to me. The idea that you're going to have this complete makeover at the safety position. So where do the Bills kind of go from here? I mean, because it's nice to have depth players like Cam Lewis and Taylor Rapp, and I would hope that the Bills would invest more in that position.
Those aren't depth players right now.
Yeah, right.
Those are the starters.
Right.
Like those those are the guys right now. And then you think about DeMar Hamlin, a guy that started a lot of games for them 2 years ago. I know it was kind of a bounce-back season for him and somebody that wasn't relied upon, but I think the fact that he's still on the roster means that they're comfortable, being in a spot where he ends up being the fourth safety or at least competing for that spot. And don't forget, they have 11 draft picks. I mean, there's a world we live in if they don't do anything in free agency that they can draft 2 safeties and hope to find one there. I think defensively, schematically-wise, they've landed in this defense that plays heavily in the dime package, especially on third downs. So I think, at the very least, that's Cam Lewis to me is this year's Taylor Rapp at the worst. I think Taylor Rapp fits into that Jordan Poyer role. And then they either draft a guy like Cameron Kitchens, who I was very high on at the Combine, had a big week at the Senior Bowl. That to me is your, prototypical find in the draft to become, that guy that you develop. Or they could still make a move in free agency. There's a lot of guys still out there. Cameron Curl from the Washington Commanders. Jeremy Chin is a name that's been thrown around there. Jeffrey Simmons, who got released by the Denver Broncos. There's a lot of names out there still. That's one of the more talent, plush positions. The thing with safety, though, is, and I think to me, Rapp and Lewis fit the mold for what Sean McDermott did in 2017 when he came in. I mean, I know a lot of people remember the Justin Jefferson play with Cam Lewis, but I think there's a little bit more meat on the bone for what he can be in this defense. And that 2-year, $4 million contract, sure, he plays special teams, but to me that says a little bit more about what they think about him than just being a depth player. I think there's a world we live in where he starts. On a separate note, I don't know if you guys caught Jordan Poyer's videos. He posted 2 videos from Costa Rica where he goes every offseason the last couple of days. And I wanted to listen just to see if anything popped up. And one of the things that he said in there that I thought was really alarming was that he didn't know if he was going to play football anymore. That'll be a decision that comes up later down the road, which, I thought coming off of last season and the initial reaction that he had talking about, getting fired and what that felt like and something that he was, went through his career just cringing at the possibility of that happening. That's alarming to me. All right, what's the next spot going to be for Jordan Poyer? What's the future hold for him as well? And we all know Micah Hyde and him considering retirement. It's been such an interesting offseason. This has been the most interesting offseason that I started on the beat in 2018.
So for all of the unpredictability of last Wednesday, we have legal tampering going on right now, Matt. And tell me if you're anything like us, because I feel like we've kind of telegraphed every move that Brandon Beane has made, which may not be a good thing, because if we can do it, then the rest of the league kind of knows what your priorities are and what you're doing. I mean, yesterday when Leonard Floyd got signed, we were on the air saying, all right, now the Bills are going to start signing their own guys because they've got their +2 in the comp pick formula, with Gabe Davis signing in Jacksonville and Floyd signing with the Niners. And then sure enough, 5 minutes later, it's A.J. Epineza. Later that night, it's Daquan Jones. Is Beane settling, or is he actually trying to work that comp pick formula to his advantage here for 2025?
I mean, yeah, he's probably trying to work it, but they were excited about a 3rd-round pick, and what it ended up being a 4th-rounder. Not to say that he's not happy to get that extra pick, but they don't have a 3rd-rounder, and you wonder if they made that deal thinking at the deadline, thinking that they were going to have a 3rd-rounder, and they'll give up their own, and now they don't, and it's a whole round later. So I don't know if it necessarily predicts all of the movement that they make or the decisions that they make, but I definitely think it plays a factor. I mean, go back to last offseason. You can make an argument that Connor McGovern was the most important free agent acquisition. It really solidified that offensive line. I think that's an argument I'd listen to. Mm-hmm. But I don't think you can say that any free agent made a bigger impact than Leonard Floyd, and he didn't go into the comp formula because they signed him in June. So there's talent you can find at every wave of free agency. And I think that's the way that Brandon Beane is going into this thing is like, okay, these are our priorities. Let me see what Daquan Jones and A.J. Epineza can find their market at, and then we'll see if we can't offer something that's competitive, but not over the top, and something that, okay, do you want to chance it in the unknown, or do you want to come back to a place where you're going to have a huge role? I mean, Daquan Jones, we already know what he means to this defensive line and how good he's been at times when he's been healthy. But for Epineza, I put in my story up this morning, he only played 34% or 36% of the snaps last year compared to 53% for Leonard Floyd. With Floyd now gone, depending on what they do in free agency or the draft, even if they draft a guy, I mean, Epineza's snap count is going to soar in 2024. So he's betting on himself. The A.J. Epinesa deal, to me, is one of those quintessential Bean brilliant moves because you now have a guy that you're not paying a ton. You're getting him at $6 million a year for the next 2 years. Great. But you're also getting a very motivated player that's basically in 2 contract years. Like, he wants to get back to the negotiating table in 2 years for his one last big bite of the apple. And so you're going to get the best version of A.J. Epinesa just when you need him the most, potentially as a starter. I really like the moves. I think that they can work in that second and third, and especially that fourth wave when, nobody was expecting a player of Leonard Floyd's ability to be available at that stage, but it was the most important move he made last offseason, arguably.
Yeah, no doubt. Matt Perino, Shout Podcast, Syracuse Post Standard. Matt, so much has happened since we last talked to you, and there was also a trade from last week. I'm bringing this up for a reason. Bates going to Chicago for a 5th-round pick, but that's the first of the 5th round, so it's not a bad pick. Here's my question. The 11 picks now that Buffalo has, what's more likely? You're going to take those picks? Brandon Beane's going to move up in round 1 or 2, make sure he gets his guy? Or is there something to be said that, hey, virtually every position here needs to be kind of replenished here? Like, keep the 11 picks. And maybe if you can get 8, maybe even 9 guys in the opening day roster, how do you see Brandon Beane now using all these picks coming up in April?
Oh, I think you're looking at a very tactical Brandon Beane getting ready to go to the war table, right? Like, he's going to be probably very active. And I'm not necessarily saying he's going to trade up in round 1, but I think going in with 11 picks gives you the kind of ability to move up and get guys specifically in 2, 3, and 4, where I feel like the Bills have had misses the last couple of years. Not necessarily with the guys that they've taken, but guys that they may have missed out on because they didn't have the capital to get up in those rounds. And so now, with 11 picks, you can be a little bit more aggressive. And I really like the scenario of, okay, sit at 28. If the guy that you love is there, great. If not, trade back maybe 10 spots, get a guy from a group of guys that you like, add even more capital that gives you the more resources to get up again in round 2, round 3, and round 4. So you come away with, at the very least, 4 guys that you have super high grades on, because I think there's so much value at the beginning of the 2nd and 3rd round that a lot of teams, like I look at Detroit as a team that's really taken advantage of this the last couple of years. Part of that's because they've been bad until this last season, and so they've had those, they've been positioned there anyway. But if you hit on those picks, I feel like there's a lot of talent there. I think the Bills are in a really good spot to be strategic in the way they move up and down, maybe more so up in the later rounds.
Matt, with all of the free agent moves here during legal tampering, one thing that we've kind of noticed, it feels like it's a trend. All of the top running back free agents have already been claimed, and really Gabe Davis is the only big-name wide receiver free agent that's been claimed. There's a lot of names that are available at the wide receiver position. Do you think the Bills are getting involved in that wide receiver free agency market ahead of the draft, where we all expect them to invest in wide receiver as well?
Yeah, I definitely think they're going to try to add a receiver. It's got to be the right price, though. Like, I thought Darnell Mooney was a guy that was really interesting, but at that Gabe Davis contract at 3 for $39, I just don't think the Bills have that money right now to hand out. And not that I'm saying that they would even consider it for Gabe Davis, but that's the part of the pool the Bills just can't swim in right now, especially in a loaded wide receiver class where you could double dip here coming up next month and just roll with that, and you don't have to pay that high price tag. I still think there's some guys out there that are super intriguing. A guy like Curtis Samuel, if you can get him on a 2 for $12 or something like that, is really intriguing. Obviously, Brandon Beane was in Carolina when they drafted him, and Joe Brady had him in Carolina for his year as the offensive coordinator. So there's familiarity there. If they really like him, that could be something that I think would be intriguing. And I think he gives you a lot of different things. I think he gives you some of that downfield explosiveness, but also some of that run after the catch in the short and intermediate area. DJ Chark, somebody I liked last year, he got a little bit more than I thought he would. Maybe that price tag comes down a little bit. And then, a guy that's kind of off the rate, I wouldn't close the door on Odell Beckham Jr. if the money's right. I know people don't really want to talk about that. I got absolutely blown up in our insider chat when I even mentioned him as a potential option. Bills fans are kind of over that saga from what I've kind of taken in over the last couple of weeks, but I'm not crossing that up the list. But one off-the-radar guy that I think is super interesting, former second-round pick, Donovan Peoples-Jones, who played in Cleveland, had himself a really good year, I think, in year 2, went on to Detroit, just couldn't find a role there. He can be a very low-end option that gives you some of that boundary presence that I think the Bills would like, and a guy that's kind of just like a roll of the dice, wide receiver 3, at best, wide receiver 4 or 5, somebody with some upside and size, speed that they might like.
Matt, last one for me, and I'm going to make a statement, and you tell me if it's true or false. The Buffalo Bills, despite all the cuts last Wednesday and their cap issues, their opponents in the AFC East have not made up any ground here in free agency.
Truth. That is the most truth that you've spoken all day, Gino. I am very underwhelmed with what the Jets and the Dolphins have done. And, the Patriots, to me, are only going to be real if they find a quarterback. And we won't know about that until the draft and then likely until the season starts. So, I think the Jets going out and getting Tyrod Taylor is definitely an upgrade at the backup quarterback situation, but they're still going to have to play Aaron Rodgers, who whispering I don't think is very good anymore. So that whole problem exists. I also don't like the vibe in New York with the Jets. You got Sauce Gardner, who comes out today, if you saw, talking about poking shots at McCole Hardman, talking about not knowing what it's like to win. And I'm sitting back and like, what has Sauce Gardner won? I mean, the dude has been let's be honest, on teams that have been losers his first 2 years. He's an elite talent. Don't get me wrong. He's a great player. But I don't think anybody in that New York locker room needs to be screaming about winning culture or learning how to win or anything like that. I don't know. The vibes there just aren't great. And I thought I was taken aback at Deion Dawkins being so willing to come out and aggressively go after that Jets defense the way that he did on that podcast a few weeks ago. I don't like the vibes there. And then in Miami, Shaq Barrett is a nice kind of contingency plan based on the Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips injuries, but I still don't know offensively if they're getting better on the offensive line this offseason. Like, they've not been able to do that year in and year out. Everybody's freaking out about Robert Hunt being gone. I don't even know how good he actually was, and he got absolutely paid. So I don't know. I think the uncertainty around Tua, what are they going to do with his contract, the Tyreek Hill, eventually going to lose some of that speed, which makes him such an elite player. I think that's in play. I've been talking about that the last 2 years. It hasn't happened yet, but eventually it's going to. When he loses even a quarter of a step, he just becomes not the same player. So I'm interested to see if that maybe happens this year at some point. If I'm the Bills, I'm sitting here in this division thinking I have Josh Allen. I have, for the most part, bringing back the offense around him, year 2 of Joe Brady. I'm excited about that. And you run this thing back with a more healthy defense. And I think even going into the draft, you're still in a pretty good spot.
When you look at the idea that Tua could get paid somewhere in the ballpark of 45 to 50 million per, and you also consider that Josh Allen, after this restructure, will count as over 60 million on the 2025 Bills salary cap. When does Josh Allen get a new contract with the Buffalo Bills, Matt?
Say that again.
When does Josh Allen? When does Josh Allen get a new contract with the Buffalo Bills?
That's a good question. I mean, they're going to have to re-up this thing at some point, because right now his average annual is just so crazy where he's at, considering the player that he is. And I think eventually, there's probably some caponomics that I'm just not up on, that doing the renewed deal will put you in a better cap situation long term. I mean, I'm pretty sure Tom Brady did it once or twice during his tenure there, and I think Josh has been on the record as saying he's more than willing to play that kind of ball to put the team in a position to, bring in players and sign guys to contracts. They're doing the restructure now, pushing some of it down. I'd say maybe even next offseason, as early as next offseason, to start talking about it.
Matt, appreciate you making some time here after getting back from vacation. What is coming up here at Syracuse Post Standard and the Next Shout podcast we can go check out?
Yeah, the Next Shout podcast is happening in about 5 minutes. So I'm going to hang up with you guys and get on there and get after it. We'll have you covered at the website all week long, and we'll have reaction podcasts as big moves, if any big moves happen.
All right, Matt, appreciate the time, man. Welcome back home. Hope you enjoyed your time. Well rested now, back at it, and we appreciate you spending some time with us in the sports bar this afternoon.
Good to catch up, boys. Take care.
You got it. Thanks, there he is, Matt Perino, covering the Buffalo Bills for the Syracuse Post-Standard.
Ever been in the car with sick kids? That does not sound like fun.
Yeah, no, man. Car sickness happens. I was that sick kid when I was a kid. I always got car sick. I mean, I don't know what it was. Could it be the driving without air conditioning in a car that you have parents smoking in the car, windows rolled up? I mean, maybe, just maybe that had something to do with the motion sickness. I don't know. Could be.
Your mother smoked?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, but
I didn't think she did. No.
Just like this. Dad run this morning, and it's chilly outside, and I go drive. I'm running by a driveway, and a guy's in the driveway, sitting in his truck, window rolled down, and he's burning one, and I can smell it from the sidewalk. I'm like, look, I'm not judging anybody harshly or negatively. If you've made the choice to smoke, that's your choice. But man, I, for the life of me, can't understand how for so long nobody questioned, like, is this really good for us? This doesn't seem like a good idea. The smell now is almost like instant nausea, almost instantly. I don't know what it is. It's been that way for me my entire life. I've never smoked. I don't smoke. I never once did any of that, even when you go out, when you out at the bars, none of that, because it's like an instant ick for me. I just immediately feel sick.
And now Mike Danger, a dad himself, and if you need evidence, go to our YouTube feed here online where you can see him wearing his dad's sweater.
I'm going to unzip it. We're going to get a little bit more casual now, all right? Does this make it a little bit less Mr. Rogers for you?
That's better, yeah.
Okay,
it's
good.
a little better.
I'll do that. Hey, it was a little chilly this morning. We'll get to Seth Appert, Rochester Americans head coach. He joins us here in about a half an hour. We've got some takes on tap next with I'll Drink to That.
Yeah, I'm going to give you an NBA take because it's not that we're late to the party here. Just so much has been happening, but who is the one talent right now I don't think we talk enough about. And some thoughts here about the New York Jets, specifically one player that they signed today, and I think it's kind of cute.
There's another player who was recently signed by his team who's up to his old tricks. And I got to tell you, I don't know if this fan base is going to react to it the way he thinks they're going to react to it.
What are we talking about? Steeler country? Let's ride?
This guy. We'll get into that with I'll Drink to That next. Your phone calls are always welcome here in the sports bar. Pull up a stool, as we like to say. 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Rochester and streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Getting down on the wire for the Buffalo Sabres. They played a team. One of them, they're chasing the standings tonight. Detroit. Head coach Don Granato on the opponent.
I don't take anything out of that game. It's in the past, and so not much. I mean, if you go out tonight, it's a whole new realm, and you've got to get in the moment and be in the moment. And so, yeah, we look at it, but really, how much can you take?
Coverage begins at 7 here on the Fan Rochester. Daquan Jones, A.J. Epineza, both coming back to the Buffalo Bills. They are off the market. Other moves today. Former Buffalo Bills running back Naeem Hines signs a 1-year deal with Cleveland up to 3.5. Derrick Henry signing with the Baltimore Ravens. It's a 2-year deal. Zach Moss going to the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals then trade Joe Mixon to Houston for a draft pick. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Today is not like yesterday in NFL free agency. We made it through this free agency frenzy.
Hey, business is business. It is.
Epinesa trying to chase him down, and he gets him. He makes the sack. A.J. Epinesa.
And how about sack number 9 for Daquan Jones?
The Bills have restructured the contract of quarterback Josh Allen.
I would expect them to be signing a wide receiver.
Mike Danger.
Does Brandon Beane go big game hunting? Can he go big game hunting here now that he's afforded himself all of these moves and a little bit of room here to negotiate and navigate?
Gene Battaglia.
Now you actually need to kind of look at the tackle position. If you have to say what's next for the Buffalo Bills here, that would be the position.
Today's probably a good day for the Bills to sign a safety.
Naeem Hines!
9 times.
Since he will trade Mixon instead to the Texans.
Derrick Henry with the Ravens.
Seth Appert with the state of the team.
It's Buffalo-Detroit tonight.
Spring training injuries always seem worse.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
And we welcome you back into the Sports Bar. That's a take. Do spring training injuries actually seem worse than they actually are because it happens during the season of hope?
Wow, ask any Yankee fan right now. I mean,
gripping
it's like,
right now.
Wow, and again, Aaron Boone did your typical Aaron Boone thing today. Well, we're still kind of waiting, but he did rule out Garrett Cole for opening day, so it's not good. But the severity Yankee fans still kind of clinging to. I'd say yeah, because I think the exercise of spring training. I think we realize this is like a big money maker. I mean, you don't need all these games. The pitchers, can they get the work in some other way here to ramp up for the season?
We welcome you into the Sports Bar. We'll have more takes on tap here with I'll Drink to That. Yeah, appreciate you listening at 95.7 FM, AM 950. We've got the stream up. You can watch the Sports Bar at The Fan Rochester on YouTube, our channel there. Also streaming on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. And we sound great on your smart device as well. Just try it out. Ask it to play. 95.7 The Fan. Our phone number 866-4FAN, 866-4326.
Yeah, some takes here as we'll, or do you want to start here with kind of a quickie review here of free agency?
Oh, there's a lot to get to.
I mean, it's...
where do we start? Well, just from a Bills point of view, in the last 24 hours, obviously, we knew A.J. Epineza was returning. When we got off the air last night, that news was breaking. Daquan Jones is returning to the Bills on a 2-year, $16 million deal. Part of what makes this possible is the additional $16.7 million in cap space afforded the team when they restructured Josh Allen's contract. That happened last night as well. So the Bills now are ready for the start of the league year, as they're no longer in the red.
Yeah, and so we're kind of just waiting here as really I think the receiver market has yet to take off. Yes, Gabe Davis signed yesterday, but everybody else, and I think that's kind of just indicative of actually the talent here. Like you should be able to wait. So names like Curtis Samuel still sitting out there. We talked to Matt Perino last hour. He identified Donovan Peoples-Jones, guy with the Browns and Lions. Yeah, you're just looking for Jags at this point.
Well, you want production.
Yeah.
You want production. And I think part of what has made these running backs kind of fly off the board in the free agent market is that a lot of these guys, he accounted for more than 1,000 scrimmage yards last year. And then we haven't had a free agency period like this with so many productive running backs. And you don't have to break the bank on a long-term deal with any of these guys. I think everybody that's been signed, maybe a couple of exceptions where you could look at some of the length or the money being dished out to players like, it's manageable. It's tolerable. We have some breaking news.
Yeah, the Bills just made a signing.
It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
We need to get an Eagle fan here just to say, is this a good signing or not? The Buffalo Bills have agreed to terms, according to Mike Garofalo, a 1-year deal with linebacker Nicholas Morrow. He had 12 starts with the Eagles last year wearing the green dot as the signal caller. So a linebacker, I didn't identify that as a position. You need depth at every position. So,
well, he's probably somebody that you bring in place of Terrell Dotson.
That's got to be it.
Yeah. And on a day where you see Patrick Queen go for 3 years, $41 million, I have to imagine that this guy is considered a value play and probably still has a lot of football left in front of him. So you bring him in and you hope that he can fill that role, the depth piece at linebacker. And hey, we haven't heard anything really about the recovery of Matt Milano, and we probably won't hear anything about the recovery of Matt Milano until we see him later this summer at Fisher.
Yeah, this is strictly a backup because it was 1 year in Philadelphia. Danger, you thought of him so much. He played with the Bears all of 2022, originally drafted by the Raiders here. So guy primarily plays the outside. He's 28. Sounds like somebody like, okay, maybe the Bills can't bring back Dotson. This is another body to kind of throw in the mix.
Okay. That is somebody, if I'm not mistaken, because was he released by the Eagles prior to the legal tampering period? I don't think he was. He's a free agent, and now you're -1
for this guy.
Yeah. So you're overall +1 in the comp pick formula, if I'm doing my math correctly here. And this is hard math for me. 1 + 1 I think equals 2. Last time I checked. All right, so we got another signing there for the Buffalo Bills. Some linebacker depth. Not the safety or wide receiver, I think a lot of us are looking at.
No, not the safety or wide receiver.
Some takes.
Yeah. NBA. Can I give an NBA take? Because I like this is the time of year that, once the tournament especially goes, I'll be watching more. I fall into the category of playoffs, and then every year I say, I'm going to watch more NBA, and then what ends up happening, I don't watch more NBA.
Knicks are fun unless you're watching the Knicks, and then they only want to score 70 points.
I found myself Sunday night saying I should have watched the Oscars instead of this. All right, and that's my team, right? Had a chance, Danger, and to catch Victor Wembanyama last night. 27 points, 14 rebounds, lost to Golden State. I mean, there's nothing around him. Danger, he is the rare athlete. When you watch, you say, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this.
Yep.
Big men aren't supposed to move like that. Big men aren't supposed to handle the ball like that. Well, Gene, what about Kevin Durant? All right, Durant is 6'11". Wembanyama is 7'4". Oh, by the way, he's only 20. He might be done growing. Look, if this kid, and plus Durant is not a leader, who knows what Wembanyama may be. If the kid stays healthy with a good organization like the Spurs, the buildup is going to take a few years here, but I think they win multiple championships. If this kid is on, I'm going to be watching.
Yeah, I want to see him bulk up. That's the thing that when I watch, I'm like, man, he is pretty spectacular with the ball, and he can make plays on the defensive end as well. But I just, look at his lankiness, and he's 20. He's going to continue to kind of grow into that body. But as he bulks up, he's a specimen. He's going to be something special. A lot of fun. And there's a lot of fun little storylines happening throughout the NBA right now. The Luka triple-double streak continues, right? Like, Luka's playing out of his mind. The Knicks are fun, as I mentioned. They're battling back, and you get OG back, coming back now tonight, I want to say. So the NBA down the stretch here should be entertaining. The Sixers are always compelling. If Embiid finds himself healthy enough to come back here to start the postseason or at some point during the postseason, that'll be a storyline. I just don't want to lose sight of what's most important down the stretch here in the NBA.
What is most important?
I just want to make sure that we're all appreciating LeBron James, because we won't get the chance to see him much longer. At some point, he's going to walk away. Just appreciate LeBron for as long as we can appreciate him, and don't let anybody else get in the way of that appreciation you have for a guy that at worst is the second greatest NBA player of all time.
I'm really looking forward to that play-in round against Dallas.
Do
you realize Dallas is an 8 and LA is a 9 right now, and just seeing Luka just wiping LeBron off?
Yeah, it's possible.
Bye-bye.
Great day to be a Steeler. That's the tweet that was sent out earlier today by Russell Wilson. Moments after the Steelers signed Patrick Queen, he doubled down. He put out a tweet that just said, Queen, with the little Queen crown emoji. Absolutely insufferable. If you're a Steelers fan, is your big concern with Russ here that he's going to tweet at you every day until you decide to like him? So corny. And more of what we've come to expect from the biggest phony in the NFL. And in Pittsburgh, they're real. I don't know that this is going to play in Pittsburgh. And nobody's gotten to him just yet. Nobody has gotten to him. You can tell that nobody's gotten into him. And it's just like, hey, man, ease up a little bit.
Yeah. How could somebody be so not self-aware? It's a good quality to have, I think, in life.
I also think, though, in the world that we live in now, in social media, everybody has their own echo chamber. And for every person that wants to call Russ washed or corny, he's got people saying, I can't wait to go buy your jersey. You're giving us hope. I love you, Russell Wilson.
That's exactly it, that you live in your own bubble and everything that comes back to you is like, hey, I'm right. See, I'm being validated. And this guy is addicted to validation, it seems.
Yes. Yeah, he's all about me. He's got to get the stats. He's got to get the awards, the accolades.
Total opposite what that position should be.
That's right. That's right. Bear, I'm going to sit back and kind of watch, Steeler fan, because I think he's going to tweet at you every day until you just relent and say, fine, Russ, we're happy that you're here. Fine, we like you. Is that what you want?
He's not on that opening day roster.
Whoa, that's a take.
Well, you look at the contract, and if all things are equal,
Mason Rudolph could still come back.
Right. Oh, also, if there's maybe a quarterback you like in the draft, then take that quarterback. It's not even a contract danger. It's like, okay, come on in. That's basically, you realize the Bills are paying Cam Lewis more than the Steelers are paying Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating. Will he be on that roster opening day? Wow. I kind of like that take. I kind of like that take a lot.
Now, if I'm wrong, am I allowed to think of fantasy? Like Russ in Pittsburgh, would that actually work? What about Atlanta? Well, if you're thinking this way, let me tell you, make an appointment to listen to us coming up on Thursday. Andy Barron's Yahoo Fantasy will be joining us.
Yeah, we talk to Andy every week during football season, talk some fantasy football. But, man, with all of the moving parts of free agency, just getting Andy on to talk about winners, losers, guys that, improved their value, guys that maybe have fallen off a little bit, what to do with the Steelers offense and Russell Wilson, what to do with Kirk Cousins in Atlanta. Yeah, there's plenty to dive into. We'll get into that Thursday afternoon at 3:25.
Hey, Tyrod has a new team, the Jets. Yay. Did GM Aaron Rodgers sign off on this? Of course he did. Tyrod isn't challenging anyone for a starting job. Aaron Rodgers loves this. Look, credit.
He's not going to love it because you know why? Tyrod wants to start. Tyrod wants to play.
No.
I think he wants to play.
No, I've been around this guy. He right now is at the stage where I can make a decent living being a backup quarterback. He wants to play because he knows the old man's going to get hurt. Okay? By the way, this is team number 7 for Tyrod. One more and he ties Fitzpatrick. And people love Fitz, right? Where's the love for Tyrod? Yes, I know. The Harvard guy is very charismatic. Tyrod has the personality of a wet sandwich. That's really what it's about.
He really doesn't have much in terms of a personality. But there were moments last year where he showed up and you'd be like, whoa, Tyrod, dude, is Tyrod trying to win football games here? I mean,
the Tyrod experience was him melting down at the end of the first half against the Bills. Had he just settled for the field goal and didn't lose his bearings, the Giants win that game. And Tyrod gets his revenge on the Buffalo Bills, and so does Dable.
Now, earlier in the show, I was racking my brain trying to figure out who else the Jets signed as their backup quarterback. My mind is scrambled because of all of the names and teams that are involved. And the Giants brought in Drew Lock. The Jets brought in Tyrod Taylor. That's where I kind of got confused. I don't know why, but when I saw Drew Lock with the Giants, I thought, oh, the Giants now have two, but Tyrod's with the Jets. Sorry for the confusion, folks. It's really me just trying to keep up with everything that's going on.
So, in Zach Wilson, correct me if I'm wrong, he's still technically a Jet. He was not released. Like, they gave him go find a trade. Oh, there's nothing for you. It's a crazy world, Danger, that Mac Jones got a 6th-round pick, but Jacksonville, local kid, that actually kind of matters down there. I think that's really the main reason why they made that move. So, is there a team that's willing to give up a late-round pick for Zach Wilson?
Would you would you give up a late-round pick for Zach Wilson? No, I would not. No, I would not. And here's why. At the end of last season, he didn't want to play.
Somebody sold him out in the organization, but if, the idea that, no, I don't want to go back in there.
He didn't want to play.
Yeah.
He didn't want to play. Like, he was told basically that his time was up, and again, to go against the organization, he's like, yeah, no, I'm not going to go back in there. He ended up going back in there, by the way, but that kind of tells you all you really need to know about Zach Wilson, I think. It's kind of like we'll never get past Sam Darnold, that game where he was like, I'm seeing ghosts out there, right? Yeah. Like, he'll always be the seeing ghost guy. And now that seeing ghost guy is getting 1 year and $10 million in Minnesota. But it's a hard thing to come back from. And I don't know that Zach Wilson comes back from his disastrous time with the New York Jets. They completely botched that player. Completely. We go to Amherst Hockey next and catch up with head coach Seth Appert. Syracuse, the opponent tomorrow night, here on your proud home of Rochester Americans hockey, 95.7 The Fan. We'll have that action for you from Syracuse tomorrow at 7, and Seth Appert next on The Fan.
You're listening to the Sports. update.
Daquan Jones, A.J. Epineza, both coming back to the Buffalo Bills. They're off the free agent market. Epineza sharing his goals.
I would say my goals for sure this year is I want to earn a starting spot on the defensive line and continue progressing my game with stats, whether that be more sacks, more snaps, and just overall production. So I'm ready for more, and I'm looking forward to taking on more responsibility.
This just in, the Bills signing a linebacker, Nicholas Morrow. He started in 12 games last year for Philadelphia. He primarily plays the outside position. Former Buffalo Bills running back Naeem Hines signing a one-year deal with the Cleveland Browns. Derrick Henry, the big name to move today. Former Titan goes to Baltimore for 2 years. Former Buffalo Bill Zach Moss goes to the Bengals. Sabres tonight, they host Detroit. Our coverage will begin at 7. Gene Battaglia, The Fan, Rochester.
Top Shelf Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Pass on the left wing side and over the line. Richards, feet in front, knocked down, and Yops puts it just wide to the left post. Puck comes down behind it. Out front, they score! Comes out the near side. Warren is there. He'll chip it up under the crossbar, and the Amerks regain the lead.
There's the great Don Stevens calling another Amerks goal as they get 4 out of a possible 6 from last weekend. Syracuse, the opponent in Syracuse tomorrow night. And as we do every week at this time, we welcome in Rochester Americans head coach Seth Appert. Walk us through that home and home with Syracuse from Friday and Saturday, Coach, where you get the overtime winner at home before falling 4-2 on Saturday night.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Yeah. Excuse me. It was a really good week. We put ourselves in position to win all 3 games. Obviously get 4 of the 6 points, which we'll take. And I think, even the game we lost, it's 2-2 with 10 minutes to go in the third period. I don't think we were great that night, but obviously Syracuse is a really good team, tough building, and again, we gave ourselves a great chance to win that game. So we're doing a really good job putting ourselves in position to win right now, and obviously it was important to find a way to win 2 of those games.
Yeah, and the fact that was the only Friday, Saturday, Sunday weekend, and Seth going into the weekend, I'm thinking, okay, whatever you can get out of Sunday, knowing the guys. What did it say about your team that they had enough left in the tank to take care of Utica on Sunday?
That was huge. I mean, Utica is a really good team who's on our heels in a really tight divisional race. So that was a big game, and you knew you were going to get their best as well. It's really important at the back end of a 3-3 that you have a good start, because it's not an easy game to chase. Because you just don't have a ton of energy, and we're thin. Our lineup's thin right now, so we don't have a lot of luxury of rotating guys in and out. So really good first period to get us the lead, which was a critical importance, and then obviously we found a way to hold on to get that victory.
Seth, talk a little bit about that lineup that you just described as thin. Are we getting healthier? And what about the NHL trade deadline passing and what that means longer term here the rest of the season for reinforcements that we might eventually get here?
Yeah, I mean, the trade deadline, when your NHL club is the Sabres are trying to claw their way back into it. But, at the end of the day, we're sellers at the deadline, and that hurts the American League team. That just does. Where, if you're buyers, that helps the American League team because it pushes guys down. So we lose Jost, we lose Clegg, we lose Rusek, and so those guys are up. Obviously, those are 3 really, really high-end players for us. So that creates a little bit of a void. And then, right now, Kozak, Weisbach, Kisikoff are out with injuries on top of that. So, it's all hands on deck right now. It's pretty much every able-bodied man in the lineup, including the guy that was in the trade. We got Kali Shaline in the trade with Okposo, and he stepped in on Sunday after flying in on Saturday and had an assist and was really important in us winning that game.
Seth, I'm seeing reports, and I don't know if you're allowed to comment on this, and if so, I'd love to get your thoughts. On Anton Wahlberg, a second-round pick from the Sabres last year. We remember him. That apparently he's joining the Amerks as soon as the season's over there. Can you comment on that?
With the European guys at the end of their pro seasons, number one,
their season, they're in playoffs and things like that. So Oslin, Wahlberg, those guys. Oslin came over at the end of last year. He was hurt, so he couldn't play. So we'll see. There is a chance for the Savoy, Oslin, Wahlberg types to come over and join us, depending on their seasons, depending on immigration issues, visa issues. There's a lot of things to work through, especially with the European players. Oslin and Savoy are on very good teams, so there certainly is a higher chance that those guys go deeper in the playoffs, where Wahlberg's team isn't expected to make as much of a run. So there's a chance that we could see him, but things still have to play out there.
We've had conversations, Seth, in the past about what point of the season you start looking at the standings. And right now we find ourselves at third with Belleville and Toronto kind of like breathing down our neck, Toronto with a game in hand. How important is it going to be here down the stretch to finish with that top 3 seed rather than dipping down to 4th?
Well, I mean, it's preferable because 1, 2, and 3 get a bye, right? So it is preferable, and we were able to tie for second last year and get that bye. The year before, we were in the 5-hole, and we still won that series and then won the first round as well. So I think right now, with how good our division is, how tight our division is, first things first is we need to make the playoffs. And that's going to be a chore in itself because Utica, Laval, Belleville, Toronto, they're not going anywhere. These are really, really good hockey teams that would be all in the playoffs in most other divisions, if not all other divisions. So, you just want to finish as high as you can, whatever that is. And what I've kind of challenged our guys on is to not look at the standings, to not be consumed with, Toronto's playing tonight against so-and-so. Let's see how the result is. We control our destiny. Let's just worry about us, and let's just play every game, like it is a Game 7 type scenario. And if we approach every game with that level of urgency and just play one game at a time and not worry about the rest of it, I think the standings will take care of themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's these games are all got double the meaning. Okay, so it's Syracuse again tomorrow night, and I'm breaking protocol here, asking you to look at the game after that, Coach, but that is the next home game, Friday night against Toronto, and it's also going to be Irish night. Danger, we've been out there for Irish night. It really is one of the best times, Seth, with the parade the next day here in our town. So, I mean, what can fans kind of expect when the Marlies come in on Friday night?
Well, it's they're a really good team. They got a heck of a lineup right now, and it's less like Utica, Syracuse, Belleville. It's violent, it's heavy, it's physical. Toronto's less of that. They still play extremely hard, but it's skill and it's smarts and intelligence and just a tremendously offensively gifted team. So it's a little bit of a different challenge, a little more up and down the ice. Than when you play in Syracuse, and it's kind of hand-to-hand combat at times. So it's a different challenge, but a fun challenge nonetheless.
Seth, I know you had your hands full this weekend. You're behind the bench, and you're doing really important work with the Rochester Americans. But don't worry, your boy did the work for you. The pride of Cottage Grove, I watched the Minnesota State High School hockey final between Edina and Chanhassen. I'll report to you, if you hadn't heard, the Cake Eaters got over 2-1. They took care of the upstart Chanhassen squad, and Edina won the Minnesota State High School hockey tournament, which I don't know if you're like me, that's one of the best weekends in hockey. It resides in our home state.
It 100% does, and it is great. And my nephew was in it. He plays for Matamidi, so they're in the Class A, the small school. Yep. They won. They lost in the semifinal in overtime, but I was watching as much as I could. I definitely watched Matamidi games because they weren't during our game times. And when I was a child, my dad used to get us out of school and take us to the tournaments or bring us home and watch the tournament on TV. And those are like some of the best memories of my childhood. And so that is still watching it today is special for me, and it brings back unbelievable memories.
The only thing I want them to do, and maybe, you have clout, you have influence in the hockey world. Can we get the clear boards in the X just for the state high school hockey tournament?
That would be amazing. That would be amazing because as a young boy,
There's
going
nothing
to those
like
games
it.
Or watching them on TV, that was nothing like that.
All right, Phil, for the rest of us here,
So,
cliff notes here.
okay, back in the day, the Minnesota State High School Hockey
Yeah.
Tournament played at the St. Paul Civic Center. The St. Paul Civic Center didn't normally have hockey games, but when they did, their boards were clear. You could see through them. It looked nothing like any other hockey game you've ever seen where the boards are white. And so when they moved when the St. Paul Civic Center made way for the XL Energy Center, the clear boards went the way of the dodo. But man, it was a look. It was an unbelievable, just as much as everybody wants to talk about hockey hair and the flow and the pomade plains of Minnesota, the clear boards are a part of that tournament. You got to bring them back, Coach.
The clear boards were amazing. It was a great piece of that tournament. And, it was every kid's dream. I mean, it's funny, I get asked, when I got called up to the NHL, like, is this a dream come true? And I laugh. I was like, no, my dream is playing Minnesota High School State Tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what every kid in Minnesota, when you're on the pond or you're playing in the streets, that's what you're thinking of. You're thinking about playing for your hometown in the state tournament, which is really cool.
Did you play for in Minnesota, the state tournament, Seth?
No, we didn't make it. We had really good teams. We actually had the best, probably the best teams Park Country Grove had. We were the only time that our team was ranked number one in the state, but we lost the section final to White Bear my sophomore year, to Hill Murray my junior year, to Apple Valley my senior year. So, so that was crushing. But we did play. We played in a section final at the old Met Center in front of 15,000, just in a section final. So it was, those were great memories, and playing for your hometown with the kids you grew up with was extremely special for me.
Seth, it's always great catching up with you. Wish you the best this weekend. Looking forward to seeing you Friday night as we host Toronto Irish Night. Always a good time at the arena, and we'll talk again next week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Got it.
Thanks,
Seth Appert. A little stroll down memory lane there. You knew I was going to bring up the Minnesota State High School tournament to Seth.
I actually forgot that's where Seth hails from. So good pull on
Yeah,
you.
dude.
Yeah.
I mean, no joke. I was watching it. I was streaming the final on Saturday night. Maybe I have a problem, or maybe you have a problem, pal. Longing for the days of the clear boards at the old St. Paul Civic Center. Love our conversations with Seth Appert, and the job doesn't get any easier here with Toronto this weekend. And before you get to the home and home with the Marlies, you've got Syracuse in Syracuse tomorrow night.
Yeah, so 15 games to go. That's it. And I think, again, of all these teams, who's the youngest? It's the Amherst, okay? And the idea, and I'm glad, he kind of sort of addressed this. Antoine Wahlberg is apparently heading back. Now, he's 18, second-round pick from the Sabres last July and playing overseas, but his season's up in Sweden. Can you imagine you get a second-round pick here to join the team?
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch and see how he develops playing the game here on the North American soil. We'll get to some of these free agent signings. Lots happening around the NFL, obviously, with legal tampering continuing. And you got the start of the league year tomorrow. We'll break down many of these signings next, and happy hour still on the way as well. You can join us. We have time for your calls at 866-4326, 585-8664-FAN.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with
You're back in the sports bar. I think it's worth remembering this time of year. And one of our colleagues, Jeremy White, who hosts the morning show at our Odyssey Sports sister station, WGR, he whips out the free agency depth chart, which is basically if there's a free agent that signs with your team, you will love it. If it's a free agent that signs with another team.
Flow chart,
what did I say?
You said depth chart.
Flow chart, sorry. The flow chart. If it's a free agent that signs with another team, not for that money, that's the result. Whereas if it signs with you love it. You have to love it. Yeah, he signed with my team. So with that in mind, the Bills have a new linebacker?
Yeah, Nicholas Morrow. So Nicholas Morrow, and I've seen this come across my feed too. He actually intercepted Josh Allen in the game we don't even remember, Christmas Eve. He was a bear danger.
Yeah.
Started.
I remember that Christmas Eve game.
Yeah, so played for the Raiders, started double-digit games for the Raiders in 21 and the Bears in 22, and last year started 12 games with Philadelphia. So in 2023, in his career, 3 interceptions, and guy who can play inside or out, that flexibility. Bills seem to like that sort of thing.
God, I tell you what, man. I love this move. This move is fantastic. This is the best move that Brandon Beane could have made for this team today. I'm so happy that they signed. What's his name?
Yeah, Nicholas Morrow.
Nick Morrow.
What is the rule lately in this? But don't make me laugh.
Sorry. I'm not trying to make you laugh. I love that move.
No, you're
just following the flow chart for our buddy Jeremy.
Nicholas Morrow, sports bar guest come August in training camp.
Let's think bigger, man. I mean, we had Josh Allen last year.
I think Nick Morrow is on the board.
We had Josh last year. I want to keep that. Let's keep that expectation high. Nick Morrow. We'll remember this day if it is. If it is a conversation with Nick Morrow at some point during training camp. But let's keep the expectations high. We had Josh last year. Let's see if we get Josh again this year. That would be
good.
Fun.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So speaking of Josh, if you're just joining us, last night they did restructure Josh Allen's deal, and they added another $16.7 million in cap space. The Bills are now no longer in the red heading into the league year, which gets underway tomorrow. And at some point, we mentioned this earlier with Matt Perino, knowing that Josh Allen's cap number for 2025 sits at $60.7 million. At some point, you might want to get Josh Allen a new deal, not only because of that massive cap number, but also because, well, let's face it, he's one of the best players in the league, and he's outplayed his old deal.
Well, here's the proof here. In terms of, can we say Josh Allen's a top 3 quarterback in this league?
At minimum, you could say top 3 in the AFC.
Okay, top 3 in the AFC, top 5 certainly. But in terms of average per year, and we're including Russell Wilson in this list because that money was paid.
He's getting it.
Yeah, he's getting it. Burrow is number 1 at $55 million a year. Herbert is number 2, tied with Lamar Jackson at $52, and Jalen Hurts is at $51. Hence, that's why the two negotiations. Hey, he's not going to be the top paid, but this is where the market's at, $50. Do you think Josh Allen's in the top 10? No, he's not. He's right behind Mahomes. Mahomes is at 10 at 45. Josh Allen right now at $43 million, 11th in terms of average annual value.
And I know that the Bills love their value. They love that they've got a guy the caliber of Josh Allen locked down, and that you're getting him at a discount when other guys are getting over 50. But at some point, you're going to have to address the kicking of the can here.
Well, and it's not as bad because right now, Allen, 2029. So last year, his deal will be 28, which you can extend. Burrow is at 2030. Justin Herbert's at 2030. Jalen Hurts is at 2029 for a void year, I should say. Russell Wilson, that cap number goes to 2028. My goodness. Yeah, I think maybe not this summer. Danger, I don't think you do that.
Next offseason.
Next offseason, that will be the way to free up everything.
And if you go out and win it all, then it's worth having that conversation. There's no question that you're having that conversation.
Are you kidding me? If you win it all right, great. I don't care. Just at that point, do we pay Von Miller whatever he made?
It doesn't matter.
It does not matter.
We'll burn the city down. Daquan Jones gets his. He'll be back with the Buffalo Bills, a 2-year, $16 million deal with $10.5 million in guarantees. Jones, obviously, with the Bills here the last 2 seasons, injured some last season, but really effective when in there on that Bills Bills defense. They're just a better defense with Daquan Jones on that defensive line, and back with the Buffalo Bills. So the Bills getting guys like Jones, Epineza also from yesterday back on these shorter term deals.
So if you remember, Daquan Jones hurt in that Jacksonville game. I thought the first month of the season he was a terror. And the one thing I do like about Daquan Jones after he got hurt, this isn't true for any guy, I would see him at every game going in and out. Sometimes guys get hurt and they're rehabbing wherever. Jones was sticking around. So he was working his way back into the lineup. And yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do. And again, like that flow chart that White puts out. Love the deal, Danger. I love it.
That's right. That's one you got to love. Boy, Nyheim Hines. I don't know, man. 1 year, $3.5 million. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for Clip. We're just following the flow chart. That's it. Just following the flow chart. Nyheim Hines, former Bills running back, will end up with the Browns on that 1 year deal.
Yeah, as some musical chairs here with the running back. We knew Zach Moss was going to Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
And then so Cincinnati, what do they do with Joe Mixon? They traded him to the Texans. Now, have we seen...
7th.
It's a 7th.
Yeah. You got something. I mean, look, you're going to release him anyways. If a team's willing to give you a 7th, good. Get that 7th, and you never know. But yeah, Mixon's time in Cincinnati is done. He'll go to Houston. Zach Moss kind of exceeding expectations in Indianapolis, I think, and using that to his advantage. Like, happy for that guy. Happy for Zach Moss that he's going to get a role with the Bengals and with Mixon moving on. I think the Bengals probably be in the market for more depth at running back.
They should be. Yeah.
Zach Moss, but he was good last year when he was given the opportunity there in Indianapolis. And that's one of those deals where I think you could say that the Colts won that trade.
Did they?
The Zach Moss, Nyheim Hines trade?
Nyheim Hines wins that game for Buffalo. They don't beat the Patriots, in my opinion, unless he's running that back.
From a pure production standpoint.
Right. Like, from overall,
Yeah.
sure, if you're just looking at
But
that.
yeah,
But
I will. I
yeah.
absolutely believe me when I tell you, I think Nyheim Hines is the author of one of the greatest plays in Buffalo Bills history. Right, we'll never forget how important that play was. Those returns were, and the emotion behind those returns. A week after, everybody was kind of stunned by the Damar Hamlin incident. So Hines ends up in Cleveland, and Moss ends up in Cincinnati. Bigger name running backs. How about Derrick Henry in Baltimore? So one of the best guys to run the ball that we've seen. The Ravens get a guy who's just a beast. And we'll see what is left in the Derrick Henry tank. It is a 2-year deal worth up to $20 million. Aaron Jones will get to see his former team twice per year as he signed with the Vikings on a 1-year, $7 million deal. Austin Eckler became a Commander last night. 2 years, $11.43 million. So some of the bigger name running backs, and this is kind of different, right? Like, to see running backs move the way they've moved, it's almost as if, stop me if I'm hitting a nerve here, but it's almost as if NFL teams are trying to drive down the wide receiver market a little bit, because besides Gabe Davis and today, who do we have going to Atlanta? Darnell Mooney.
Yeah.
You haven't seen a lot of big name wide receivers, and I'm not calling Darnell Mooney a big name.
Or are these just a guys here? Like, would Bills fans be excited if the team brought in Calvin Ridley, who's still out there? And by the way, the rumor is that he wants to be back in Jacksonville.
Sure.
Okay, great. I think that the expectation is the Bills are going to wait and see what's available here maybe next week, maybe a month from now.
I mean, Gabe Davis is probably just a guy, but he got 3 years, $39 million. Can't separate.
Again, the flow chart.
Yeah,
way too much money
What
for
are they
that
doing?
cap figure in 2026.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
Yeah, terrible. Who'd the Bills sign at linebacker again?
Nicholas Morrow.
Love that play for the Buffalo Bills.
He had 119 tackles with the Bears 2 years ago.
Love that guy.
You're not excited about this, Danger.
No, I am. I'm really excited. That's a great move for the Buffalo Bills. Love the move. Makes all the sense in the world. Out of all the names that are available and all the needs that you have to fill, that's the guy. That's the one we were waiting for. We've won the offseason, Gene, with that move. Nick Morrow. Shaq Barrett ends up in Miami, so a little depth in their pass rushing unit there. 1 year, $9 million for the former Buck. Lots of backup quarterbacks, Gino, making moves here. Jameis Winston will back up Deshaun Watson. Jacoby Brissett, as we predicted, ends up back in New England on a deal that could be up to $12 million with incentives. Marcus Mariota will be an option for the Commanders at quarterback. Let's not forget about the Vikings. Sam Darnold, 1 year, $10 million. Good for Sam Darnold. Too much money. Way too much money. I wouldn't pay $10 million for Sam Darnold. Do what we're doing with Trubisky. Much better value. And Tyrod Taylor will play for his 7th NFL team. He'll be a Jet backing up Aaron Rodgers. Drew Lock to the Giants as well. Backup quarterbacks moving around.
One other note, because it is college basketball season. Syracuse will play the winner of NC State and Louisville if you're going home tonight. On the commentary tonight is Jim Boeheim. There's not going to be any bias there whatsoever.
Oh, sure. Yeah, boy, that Georgia Tech loss. That one's the one that stings. Georgia Tech getting bounced by Notre Dame in the ACC tournament this afternoon. We'll take a break and come back with Happy Hour, and we'll continue to discuss some of these free agent moves, recap a lot of what we picked up from Matt Perino in the 3 o'clock hour. The Sabres are back on the ice tonight. We'll touch that during Happy Hour. So lots to get to, including your phone calls at 866-4326. Join us at 585-866-4FAN. FanDuel's putting the ball in your court for the rest of the NBA season. It's me, Mike Danger, for FanDuel Sportsbook, the official partner of 95.7 The Fan, because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. You can bet on the NBA with a wide range of bet types, everything from quick bets, live same-game parlays, player props, and more. What do I like tonight in the NBA, Gino? Let me have a little look-see here to see what actually is full. How about this? We got the Knicks tonight hosting the Sixers. Give me a little Tobias Harris. I'd like Harris to go over 1.5 threes against the New York Knicks tonight at Madison Square Garden. You can bet however you want to bet here, however you want to play. Head to FanDuel.com/Mike to bet the NBA with a no-sweat same-game parlay. That's FanDuel.com/Mike. And don't forget the quick bets, the live same-game parlays, everything you want to bet on right there in FanDuel. FanDuel.com/Mike to bet your first layup there. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. 21 plus and physically present in New York. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
You're listening to The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester. Sports Update.
Day 2 of legal tampering in the NFL free agency window. The Bills made a depth signing today. Linebacker Nicholas Morrow gets a 1-year deal. Morrow, a former Raider and Bear. Last year he started 12 games with Philadelphia. Daquan Jones, A.J. Epinesa. If you missed it, they're both coming back to the Buffalo Bills. They are off the free agent market. One player leaving, former Buffalo Bills running back Nyheim Hines gets a 1-year deal with the Cleveland Browns. Derrick Henry, the big winner today, he signs with the Baltimore Ravens for a 2-year deal. Former Buffalo Bill running back Zach Moss signing with Cincinnati. The Bengals then in turn trading Joe Mixon to Houston for a 7th-round pick. Buffalo Sabres hockey tonight. They're chasing the Detroit Red Wings in the standings. Coverage will begin at 7 o'clock. ACC tournament, Notre Dame beating Georgia Tech 84-80. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Today is not like yesterday in NFL free agency. We made it through this free agency frenzy.
Hey, business is business.
It is. Epinesa trying to chase him down, and he gets him. He makes the sack. A.J. Epinesa.
And how about sack number 9 for Daquan Jones?
The Bills have restructured the contract of quarterback Josh Allen.
I would expect them to be signing a wide receiver.
Mike Danger.
Does Brandon Beane go big game hunting? Can he go big game hunting here now that he's afforded himself all of these moves and a little bit of room here to negotiate and navigate?
Gene Battaglia.
Now you actually need to kind of look at the tackle position. If you have to say what's next for the Buffalo Bills here, that would be the position.
Today's probably a good day for the Bills to sign a safety.
Nyheim Hines!
9 times.
Since he will trade Mixon instead to the Texans.
Derrick Henry with the Ravens.
Seth Appert with the state of the team.
It's Buffalo, Detroit tonight.
Spring training injuries always seem worse.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Happy hour in the sports bar. Legal tampering continues. Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us and listening along locally at 95.7 FM, AM 950. The free to download Odyssey app, your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. Even if you've watched us on the stream, our YouTube channel, The Fan Rochester, streaming on Twitch at The Fan Rochester as well. I am Mike Danger. He is Gene Battaglia.
Okay, I'm putting up an imaginary whiteboard, Danger, and everybody play along. There's the board.
Yes, I see it.
Okay, running across the top. Reasons Bills today signed Nicholas Morrow.
Wait, who'd they sign?
Nicholas Morrow.
Oh, I love this signing. This signing is great. This is a fantastic signing by the Buffalo Bills. We're joking, but let's dive into it a little bit here.
Yeah, like you could say, hey, they need depth. Okay, we'll write that one. Depth. Okay, we're doing this Richard Dawson. That might actually be on the top of your board. Ding, ding, ding. Right. Versatility. Yes, he plays both inside and outside. And leadership, he's worn the green dot. He rewarded a few games for Philadelphia last season. Hey, he won, with the Eagles last season. Could it also be this? Now, Terrell Dotson is not right now on the roster. He's also a free agent, and the Bills may be just kind of sliding into that slot. But who did Dotson fill in for last year?
Yeah, it was Milano.
Could this just be a big insurance policy? We just assume. And look, sports science is great. Like years ago, you suffered these injuries. That was it. Sorry. But to kind of refresh everybody's memory, it was an ACL and a fractured leg for Matt Milano.
Yeah.
That happened in October in that London game.
It's a gruesome injury.
Yeah.
It's a bad injury.
Yeah. So Matt Milano, what Matt Milano are you getting back?
Well, that's the concern, right? At minimum, you would think he's not going to be exactly the same player. With this injury, he's probably lost a step, or he's, instinctually might be the same player because mentally he knows this defense. He knows where everybody needs to be, and he's coveted by the Bills. He's also a value to the Bills. He's not for the injuries that were suffered by Trey White, they came at a pretty hefty price as well. Trey White is gone, expendable. You hit on that trade with Rasul Douglas. You hit on Christian Benford. You can't say with certainty right now that you've hit with Dorian Williams. You can't say it with certainty.
No, I like the skill and the ability, but oh gosh, yeah, he needs more seasoning. No doubt.
You feel good about Terrell Bernard moving forward. Like, that was a nice surprise to see Terrell Bernard show up and kind of take ownership of that starting role in the middle and replace Tremaine Edmonds. But the Milano injury kind of threw things out of whack. I mean, let's not forget, we had A.J. Klein out there late in the season. Very meaningful games for the Buffalo Bills. And A.J. Klein is who you're still leaning on? So, yeah, sign depth at linebacker. And this guy's got experience as a starter. And he's got experience in calling defenses on the field. I'm not going to say that he's a better player than Dorian Williams, but I think that's what you bring this guy in for. Let's see if Dorian Williams is better than Nicholas Morrow.
He was in the final cuts for Philadelphia. Should kind of point that out. He didn't make the team last year. He was available for anybody. And then right before the season started, they brought him back on the practice squad, and for whatever reason, then he was back on the active roster. So,
and remember, Philadelphia's defense last year was a little bit of a tire fire, right?
It was, yeah. Since we are fantasy addicts, we realized right away, like, wait a second, this isn't the same defense here. It was very leaky.
Welcome Sean Desai as your defensive coordinator last year. Sean Desai, not a great defensive coordinator, and I'm saying this as a guy who remembers his time in Chicago. Then Desai gave up the responsibility to, oh, yeah, that's right, the really smart guy with the pencil behind his ear, Matt Patricia. It was a bad year for the Philadelphia defense.
Yeah, and now Vic Fangio is going to be there calling the shots, and for whatever reason, Philadelphia wasn't bringing him back. So Nicholas Morrow, your new Buffalo Bill, but as the rule, we love the move.
Yes.
Love it.
Of course. No, at minimum, you've got a guy who can compete with Dorian Williams, because I don't know that Matt Milano week 1 is a lock. Not from that injury. We don't know what's going on with that recovery. We won't see what Matt Milano looks like until we get to training camp. I mean, you probably won't see him in any meaningful action in the preseason. You're recovering from a major leg injury. If we get him back midseason next year, I think that's probably that almost feels ambitious.
Yeah, and also for Morrow, like special teams, if this is the replacement for Tyler Matakevich, nice guy, but I don't think you can afford those sort of luxuries, because then you get to a playoff game against Pittsburgh and it's the fourth quarter and A.J. Klein is out. Now you're down to your fifth middle linebacker, and that guy should not be on the field with his defensive teammates. I'm sorry. So Nicholas Morrow, depth signing for the Buffalo Bills today. The two positions that Danger we're waiting for, safety and wide receiver, a little slow to get going here.
Well, the whole league hasn't really reacted yet to the wide receiver market, save for Darnell Mooney today in Atlanta, and also Gabe Davis yesterday in Jacksonville. But there's still a lot of big name wide receivers that are available, and it's almost as if NFL owners are purposely driving down the market in a time where the market was driven up just recently with Christian Kirk getting all the money that he got from Jacksonville. Jacksonville's not really playing along. They gave Gabe Davis, of course, yesterday $13 million per on a 3-year, $39 million deal. As far as safeties go, a lot of them out there. And yeah, the Bills have some needs, but how much money are they going to be able to offer? How much are they going to throw out there? What names are going to be available to them? Remains to be seen. What we know is that we will see 2 names return for the Buffalo Bills that we're familiar with on the defensive side of the ball. Daquan Jones signing last night. A.J. Epineza signing last night as well. As we were getting off the air, we were breaking the news of A.J. Epineza sticking around with Buffalo on a 2-year deal. So a couple of familiar names returning.
So at least you can sell the fan base, hey, here is your starting 4. Gregory Rousseau, I'm not going to say Von Miller, A.J. Epineza at the right side, and then whatever Miller kind of brings you. And now you have your 2 tackles, and you're going to kind of fill in from here.
I hope that they bring in more in terms of pass rushers to compete with Miller and Epineza. Like when we talked to Matt Perino in the 3 o'clock hour, he's right, man. The Leonard Floyd signing last year was the steal of free agency for the Buffalo Bills. I mean, the McGovern signing was important, but that was like the first free agent signing. They knew, like, we're going to get this guy. They got him, and he was great, and he's going to be your center for the foreseeable future now, so he's in a very important role on that offensive line. But, man, when you brought in Leonard Floyd late in free agency, and you got the production out of him that you did, I think you have to that's the kind of move I think that you hope the Bills can make here with maybe another pass rusher. maybe another safety, maybe another wide receiver.
Yeah, when we talked to Matt Perino too, the safety position, it said, hey, the depth, with Rapp and Cam Lewis, like, no, Gene, he's correcting me.
No, he's right. You have to get familiar with the idea and comfortable with the idea that Taylor Rapp is going to be a starting safety for the Buffalo Bills in 2024.
I refuse to believe this.
It's going to happen.
That is just stepping off.
They've invested
big
in
edge.
him.
Yeah.
But Gino, you got to keep. This is what I keep telling myself, and I know that you and I differ on this player, but man, I see a lot of young Jordan Poyer in Taylor Rapp. I think he's a little raw. I think he's a little unrefined. He might be a little reckless, but I think that's stuff that you can coach out of him. And I expect that for any flaws that you saw in Rapp's game last year, I think get replaced this year by him exceeding expectations. Certainly, your expectations are low, so that's not going to be a high bar to clear.
He's a depth guy. My expectations were going into free agency that you would find the next Poyer and Hyde. And what you're telling me is, hey, we had Poyer and Hyde here all along. I've seen enough on Cam Lewis to understand that if you took away the UB title, would he be on this team?
No, I don't think he would be. But I do think, whereas I believe Rapp will be a starter, I don't know that Cam Lewis will be a starter at safety. That's one where I think you could still find somebody in free agency to be that starter next to Rapp. You could draft somebody potentially to be a starter next to Rapp, but I think Rapp is back there. You have to get comfortable with that notion. I know you don't want to. You don't like the player.
I'm digging in.
Yeah, but
I like the person. I think he's a good dude.
He was great, man. When he joined us at training camp, maybe that's my bias because I remember our first conversation with Jordan Poyer, his first year in Buffalo when we were at training camp, and I remember thinking, like, this guy is potentially a special player. Like, you can tell he's a driven dude. He's buying in. He knows that he's got this great opportunity, and he made the most of that opportunity. I love that. And I think Taylor Rapp is kind of cut from the same cloth, just from the little bit that we got to spend with him last year at training camp. And he wouldn't be here if he wasn't that type of guy. We know the kind of guys that Sean McDermott wants to bring in to his team.
Oh, like Nick Morrow. Do you know where he went to? Greenville University.
Small school.
Had
to fight for every inch.
Yeah. Who else went to
fight for every blade of grass?
Went to a small school. Yeah.
Had to. You know what he does? He knows how to defend his dirt, Gino. He's great at defending his dirt. He loves his guys, small school guys with the chip on their shoulder, guys that come in with low expectations that continuously surprise you. So there's today's move as the league year gets underway. Tomorrow, what time? 3:00 tomorrow?
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
So yeah, exactly. What happened with the running back market? That's the surprise. Like, nothing has really shocked you, and that's maybe a little bit of a downer, or maybe we've been doing this so long that, we were projecting things, and oh my gosh, yeah, that actually happened, that Gabe Davis went to Jacksonville. But what I didn't see coming were NFL GMs just deciding a position they had the cost control down on. All of a sudden, it's now like we skipped a year here. Now we're kind of going back to paying running backs. That I don't get.
Here's the I think the only way I can explain it is none of the deals that I'm seeing feel like they're long-term deals. When was the last time you had a long-term deal at running back? Like Derrick Henry is just finishing his long-term deal with Tennessee.
McCaffrey.
Now, McCaffrey is the guy, right? And he's worth every penny of it and more. You would sign up and have Christian McCaffrey on your team no matter what the cost. But all of these guys that are getting signed, they were productive last year. They accounted for more than 1,000 total scrimmage yards. Whether you're talking about a Derrick Henry or an Austin Eckler, you're not giving them long-term deals. You're giving them short-term, easy-to-manage deals that they can show up and ball out for. Aaron Jones for $7 million. That feels right. It doesn't feel like what he was due to make. What he was due to make in Green Bay would be beyond incomprehensible. He's not that back anymore.
Well, nothing beyond this year. Like, everything you're seeing is very short term. Even Saquon's getting top dollar, mind you. Like, that's the second most bonus dollars. But if it's only over 2-3 years, what does it matter? You're paying the guy one way or another.
Right. I think the NFL is just wisening up, and the smart move is get value out of your running backs, when you have them on your rookie deal, this is what the Bills are doing with James Cook. Get value out of your backs while you have them on the rookie deal, grind them to a pulp, run them into the ground, and then if you have to add in free agency, it's always short term and less pain, and constantly look for, in the draft, guys that can be your next James Cook if he moves on eventually. Does James Cook get a second contract with the Buffalo Bills?
Remember, second rounder, can't use the 5th year tag.
That's right.
So this is
4 years.
Yeah, this is coming up.
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah. Like after this upcoming season, they're going to have to decide, do we want to extend him or do we want to let him play his final year of his rookie deal and let him go to free agency?
I'll answer the question this way. If last year was the best you saw out of James Cook, then the answer is no. Like, James Cook had a great year for Buffalo, except a couple plays, one drop in Philadelphia. You have to come up with those. How do you get better here? You can be James Cook, Danger, is going to be a first-round pick in fantasy football. That's a fact. Who's taking things can change, but name me the running back the Buffalo's going to bring in right now that's going to take away the targets and everything else. Mm-hmm. Well, from that standpoint, some people will look at that and say, well, that guy should get paid.
It sets up nicely because in year 3 for James Cook, if he does improve and he has a better year this year than he had last year, then the conversation is going to begin. Is James Cook getting extended? Because if he does have that kind of year, let's say he leads the league in total yards from scrimmage, he has a Christian McCaffrey kind of output, well, then I think you have to consider paying him, right? You have to consider making James Cook a long-term option at running back, but that would be very uncharacteristic of what the Buffalo Bills have done during the Bean McDermott era. They've gone from back to back to back to back. LaShawn McCoy, they kind of dealt with LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah, back to back to back, but third-round pick on Singletary, third-round pick on Zach Moss, second-round pick on Cook.
Yep.
So who's the third-round pick this year that you're going to... Well, actually, they don't have a third-round pick, so that answers my question.
But whoever they bring in, if they do bring in somebody young to be a part of that running back room, at some point, that might be the guy that you lean on because you don't want to pay James Cook. That's business, man. That's smart business. They can't do it.
The paying issue, I don't think it's Cook. I think it's Allen. When you're looking, so Josh Allen, that happened last night. Everybody was telling us it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So yes, it's a restructure. There's no payback. It's just the bonus conversion. Opened up money. Great. Josh Allen right now averaging $43 million a year, which is certainly a lot of money. But when you consider that there are 10 quarterbacks ahead of Josh Allen, this is going to be the storyline next year, right? Like if Josh Allen plays like Josh Allen once again this year, they're giving him a new contract here.
Yeah, I think so.
You can't have Josh Allen the second highest paid quarterback in his division. Like Tua
is going to make more money than Josh Allen per year.
So that'll make Josh Allen 12th on the list.
Yeah, that'll happen. When Tua gets his extension, it'll vault him up in the neighborhood of Lamar and Burrow and Herbert. And these are all guys that have signed in the last year or so. So, yeah, at that point, Josh Allen goes further down in the annual average salary. And if he does what we expect him to do at the end of next year, you're going to have to sit down and say, new contract for Josh.
Well, and new contract for Josh could actually help the cap next year because you were telling me like that cap next.
Allen's cap number for 2025 with the move made last night is now at $60.7 million.
Okay, that tells it stop. That's it. So, like, there's going to be void years and things that are going to be gross at the end of this. The fact that the Vikings still have to account for Kirk Cousins on their cap this year, that's disgusting. At the end of this, we're all not going to be happy. It's like we went to a great party and we're all hungover, okay? That's what it's, and hopefully the party includes a Super Bowl trophy. And if that happens, we won't care.
Correct.
Won't care. Okay, this was the price of winning the Super Bowl. Fine. Let's get it over with. That's an obvious storyline, Danger. I think wherever the Bills end up next year, that Josh Allen isn't going to do a restructure next year. It's hey, let's make you now. Let's get you paid more than Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, I think when it's all said and done, NFL GMs have all kind of wisened up to looking at value, right? Finding value and recognizing that you can't pay a free agent based on past performance. You have to pay them on what you believe, what you project they will give you in future performance. And with the wide receiver market, as we were discussing, with the running back market, you can kind of pencil in, like, we know what these guys are. We will feed them the rock, and Derrick Henry will probably get somewhere in the neighborhood of 800 to 1,200 rushing yards for the Baltimore Ravens. You can pencil that in, assuming he stays healthy, and if that's what $10 million a year gets you, if that's what it's worth to you as an organization, then congratulations, you got your guy. Wide receiver is a little bit tricky, man. I think that a lot of the guys that are left are guys that probably are commanding a lot more in the free agent market than what teams are valuing them at. So let's get that price down a little bit. We don't have to move. We can wait. This is a deep wide receiver draft class. And then after the draft, you could look at what's left and say, okay, let's start filling some holes.
Well, you can also, if you're Brandon Beane, what would be a selling point? Hey, something, here is like a sales technique. Everybody want to learn? I've taught my kids this. Nero. You know her, Nero? Name, empathize, redirect, overcome. Name the objection. Look, I know, pick a wide receiver on the market. Donovan Peoples-Jones. I know you were expecting to get big money. And listen, you are that talent. I know we really can't afford with our salary cap situation to pay you. However, if you come to Buffalo and put up big stats and you're going to have one of the top 3 quarterbacks on this team, you can actually make more next year. That's a very simple way to kind of sell that to any of these wide receivers. They're going to be sitting on the market this time next week. Name the objection. Hey, you're not getting paid. Empathize. You need to get paid more. Redirect. Hey, Josh Allen can, really get you some stats, and then you're going to make money elsewhere. Oh, by the way, we did this with a defensive end. His name's Leonard Floyd. Look what he's getting paid in San Francisco. We would have loved to keep him. Now, will you come in and join us this year?
It's a great case study and makes a lot of sense. And I think that's probably why you haven't seen a lot of movement with wide receivers in free agency. They're just not going to get the kind of teams aren't going to get the kind of value that these players and their agents think that they're going to get out of them at the price that they want. Unless you're talking about the Carolina Panthers.
What do they do now?
No, even last night, Brian Burns goes to the Giants and he gets extended by the Giants, $150 million deal. $87.5 million guaranteed. The Panthers get a 2nd and 5th for Burns. What would they have gotten for him last year if they didn't franchise?
2 ones.
Yeah.
It tells you all you need to know.
Oh, the Panthers.
That's like, do you know a Panther fan? I do not. I know a couple Jags fans for whatever reason. Maybe like that is the Charlotte transient city. Nobody is from Charlotte. It's like Northern Virginia. And no problem like putting down the Carolina Panthers, Danger. No problem whatsoever.
We got a round of shots coming up next in the sports bar.
Yeah, so we'll get you set up college basketball, of course, kick in high gear. We'll get you caught up with the ACC tournament. What happened to that JAG employee that stole $22 million? Oh, he got sentenced today. We'll tell you how many he got.
Wait, what did he do? This is the guy that was embezzling money?
Yeah.
Oh.
Was that wrong? Should I not have done that? I tell you, I gotta plead ignorance on this thing, because if anyone had said anything to me at all when I first started here that sort of thing was frowned upon.
Yeah. Teams don't like it when you embezzle money. Billionaires, the law.
How can you embezzle that much? You would think somebody would pay attention and be like, wait a second, where did that money go? That and, hey, Russell Wilson, the Steelers draft odds.
This guy. Oh, boy.
Oh, he tweeted today, too.
I mentioned it earlier. Guys, if you're a Steeler fan, I think this guy is going to tweet you into submission. I think he's just going to tweet at you until you finally admit that you like the signing, that you like this guy. I don't know that there's anything this guy can say or do that's going to make me forget just how much of a fraud he is. But he's trying, man. He's been tweeting all afternoon. Russell Wilson has been all thumbs on X. We'll get to that and more A round of shots and last call still on the way before 6 o'clock. You can join us at 585-866-4326, 866-4FAN.
Rochester Sports Update.
Day 2 of legal tampering in the NFL. Seeing the Buffalo Bills signing a depth player, linebacker Nicholas Morrow. It's a 1-year deal. He started in 12 games with the Eagles last year, previously with the Bears and the Raiders. Daquan Jones, A.J. Epineza, both coming back to Buffalo. They are off the free agent market. Epineza on what is ahead.
I would say my goals for sure this year is I want to earn a starting spot on the defensive line and continue progressing my game with stats, whether that be more sacks, more snaps, and just overall production. So I'm ready for more, and I'm looking forward to taking on more responsibility.
Former Buffalo Bill Naeem Hines signs a 1-year deal with the Cleveland Browns. Could be up to $3.5 million. Derrick Henry, the big name to go today. He goes to Baltimore for 2 years. Zach Moss, the former Buffalo Bill, going to Cincinnati. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan, Rochester.
The only way to take the Fan Rochester with you is the free Odyssey app. Download it today and follow the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
He can convert. I mean, there's no question about that. He is, you should never doubt him. I've spent a couple years with him in Chicago and never doubted his ability to come back. And you could tell in his voice, his conviction. I mean, this is a guy that lived in a hotel room outside Toronto for months getting ready for the season. And he has a passion and love for the game, and he's an ultra-competitive guy. And, when you're around him, you realize why he's become great. And it's the intangibles that I just mentioned that are drivers.
Don Granato, Sabres head coach, talking about tonight's opponent, Detroit Red Wings, Patrick Kane, tonight on The Fan.
Yeah, if you look at the Detroit Red Wings, I think it's fair to say, Danger, that's where we thought the Sabres would be. Detroit is a young team. They brought in Kane, who, by the way, he's been very nice this year, 33 points in 31 games. And Detroit is actually holding on to the last playoff position, 7 points ahead of Buffalo. Trust me, it's 7 points, but it feels like a lot more, right?
Yeah, the thing with Detroit is I don't believe they're as good as they're standing right now. I think they're a little fraudulent. I think Detroit is a little fraudulent, and the Sabres, I might be wrong on this. I think they have 3 more matchups with Detroit.
They have one next week, so
yeah. I think between now and the end of the season, there's 3 more games with Detroit. So if that's a team you're trying to chase, you need wins like tonight.
This is going to fire up the hope machine because then people will convince themselves. The problem is there's so many teams in between.
There are.
Yeah, that's.
But the Sabres, I mean, you could look at a team like Pittsburgh. It's like they're not going anywhere.
No,
I mean,
they're
like,
terrible.
You can. I know that the odds are stacked against them. I know that it's not going to happen, that they're not going to make the postseason. I think Money Puck, when I last checked, had it like 1.6% that the Sabres would make the postseason. But you do have 3 games between now and the end of the season against a team that you're chasing in Detroit.
So you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah!
Feels like a win.
Tonight, no.
Feels like a win.
No.
Going with it. No. Feels like a win. Tage gets a goal tonight. Feels like a win.
Okay. Mike Danger calling his shot. 7 o'clock on the Fan, Rochester. The Amerks back in action tomorrow night at Syracuse. If you missed Amerks head coach Seth Appert, you can download the Odyssey app and you can listen to the Rewind feature that was in the 4 o'clock hour today. College basketball, the ACC tournament, and Georgia Tech, their season's over. Notre Dame, losing record on the season. The Irish win that one 84-80. The game that we're paying attention here, the winner of this game will face Syracuse tomorrow night. And at the half, it's actually Louisville leading NC State 46-45. Louisville in the first half shot 69% from the floor.
It's a nice first half.
I don't know if it's sustainable, though.
You were rolling your eyes because you knew exactly what I was going to say.
Normally, teams don't shoot that high and that exact
They don't
number.
shoot 69%, but it's a nice first half.
I would say it's probably better than nice, but...
That Georgia Tech loss sucks. I mean, I just think about that Georgia Tech loss and knowing that team is a team you have to beat, you should have beaten. I know that there are other factors at play, and maybe when it's all said and done, it wouldn't have mattered. But, man, you're rattling off wins at the end of the season. You're getting hot at the right time, and then you lose to Georgia Tech.
So, Syracuse is a 7. Let's say they win tomorrow night. I think that's fair. They beat NC State or Louisville. They'll get Duke. Duke will bounce Syracuse. Is that enough to get the Syracuse? No, not even close. NIT, though.
Sure.
Maybe home for the NIT.
Yeah, and if you have hopes on the tournament, yeah, you have to hope that they upset Duke, and not only that, I think you have to hope that they win the ACC tournament. I don't think they're doing that.
I think if they get to the final, I think they would get in as a 7. Just not happening though.
Yeah.
Former Jags employee, remember this guy Amit Patel? Pled guilty to stealing $22 million from the team today. Sentenced to 6.5 years in prison, or to repay $21 million to the team. Good luck finding that money. The attorney for the Jags reading this at sentencing today. We gave him his dream job. We trusted him. We worked with him. We broke bread with him. We went through a pandemic and the highs and lows of the NFL with him. He betrayed us. We take no joy in this punishment. He make no mistake. Amit broke our hearts.
Who's watching him? Who's managing him? Who's holding him accountable as an employee? It's ridiculous. $22 million embezzled from the company. You had no idea?
What do you think your accounting firm would be like? Wait a second. We need to go over this.
That's
here.
insane.
Yeah.
$22 million. And he rolls up in a new Tesla at work like, hey, somebody got paid. Somebody's doing all right. What? That organization remains just a mystery, a mess, a disaster.
Yeah.
The Jags, always dysfunctional.
Oh, we haven't gotten to Garrett Cole. Well, part of the reason is there is no prognosis right now available for the MRI for Garrett Cole. The Yankees, if they do know, they're not telling us. Manager Aaron Boone said today, though it's unlikely that Cole will be available on opening day, you think? Boone says the organization has begun discussing who's going to start on opening day against Houston on March 28th. That's only 16 days away here. The internal options are, well, they're all not good. Carlos Rodon, Marcus Stroman, the former Cub and Met, and Nestor Cortes.
I think it's Stroman. Think it's Stroman?
Rodon has not been good this spring.
I think it's Stroman.
Cortes.
Yeah.
You got to go with the vet, not the new guy.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, it ain't going to be Cole.
That's a bummer. You hate to see it for baseball because you want the best players out there, and he's one of the best players in the league, obviously. So I hate that news. And in our open today, produced by the Dandalorian, bounty hunter, the finest audio in the galaxy, somebody had the take. I'm not sure who it was. I'm not giving credit. It's
the writer in the new show.
Oh,
yeah, the producer for that show.
D-Cell.
Yeah.
Okay, so D-Cell during Writer Than You said that baseball injuries in spring training are worse than any other injuries. I'm paraphrasing, but like they feel worse when they happen in spring training than they do during the regular season.
Which, because this is the season of hope
That's
and
right.
everything else, and if you're going to take away your ace, look for the Yankees. It's the same hope as the Mets. Who got into the World Series last year? That'd be Arizona. How many games were they above 500?
Yeah, right.
Now, the AL East is a little bit different. I understand.
Go on a run. Go on a run and let's see what happens.
Or start acting like the Yankees and go out and get somebody more than Soto. You're the Dallas Cowboys of baseball. Oh, by the way, Dallas hasn't done anything. I love my Cowboy feed of like people that are just complaining. Do something. No. Why do you fall for this every year? You're the Cowboys. You don't do anything. Jerry says he's all in. Sure.
Yeah. I think, hold on a second here, because one of our regulars happens to be a Cowboy fan, and I'm a little worried about
Aaron,
where Aaron's head is at right now. He wanted to know if
this happens every year, but I'm ticked with the Joneses not signing a single free agent. All in my blank.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Aaron, we're thinking about you, pal. Who's running the ball for Dallas next year? Deuce Vaughn?
Well, I saw another analogy here. I'd give credit if I knew who wrote it, but for Dallas, it's like the speed limit is 55, and the Cowboys are doing 55 when the flow of traffic is 70. That's the Dallas Cowboys. Like, okay, it's free agency. We're just going to kind of get to our destination, and yeah, we'll be relevant, but are they really going all in? Jerry's a salesman.
Mm-hmm.
He likes making money.
Mm-hmm.
They would have won a Super Bowl, been to a Super Bowl, been to an NFC championship game. Let's get crazy. And it hasn't happened here in the last 30 years. Finally, how many times did you hear this from a Steeler fan? Well, only if they had a quarterback last year. Well, They did sign Russell Wilson, and before signing Russell Wilson, the Steelers' odds on the futures market to win the Super Bowl were plus 7,500 on FanDuel. Those are pretty high odds. The odds after Russell Wilson signing? Plus 7,500.
Yeah, it's not a needle mover. I think maybe they increased their odds a little bit to win the division, but that's it. Look, you heard it a lot from Steeler fans. If they only had a quarterback, here's what I've been hearing. Well, there's literally no downside to bringing in Russell Wilson. Oh, really? No, I think there is still a potential downside. Yeah, you're not paying him, but the downside is he's going to be Russell Wilson. It's already starting, man. If you're a Steeler fan, are you already tired of this guy? Because he great day to be a Steeler at Steelers. That was the tweet today. Like, here we go. Here comes the corn machine. Queen gets signed from the Ravens, the free agent linebacker. Russell Wilson tweets out, Queen! Wow, what an unbelievable teammate you are. Why is it that nobody wants you on their team if you're such an unbelievable teammate? Why is it that a team would literally eat $80 million rather than to have you in their locker room? Mr. Unlimited. Why? Yeah, something could go wrong in Pittsburgh with this signing. There is risk.
Who's the most thirsty athlete in all of sports today?
Ooh.
It's not Russell Wilson's up there. I'm going to go with the guy who once upon a time upstaged draft night and then was going into this dark cave. Like, we haven't seen
Rodgers?
We haven't seen a stunt from Aaron Rodgers. Like, wait a second, is the guy okay?
Yeah. For me, if we're doing a thirstiest athlete bracket, my one seed, just because I don't know that we're really, we haven't brought him up, and I know that he won't appreciate it, but we have to appreciate him more, and that's LeBron James. I think LeBron James is probably number one on that list.
Well, I'm bringing up Rodgers right now for a reason. I don't think you've seen this yet. The New York Times is reporting that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who, by the way, is running for president, has approached Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers about potentially serving as his running bait on the independent presidential run. They've, quote, talked pretty continuously for the past month.
Oh, boy.
Yes, this will give Aaron Rodgers
Is that a real report? Where's that coming from?
New York Times.
New York Times is reporting that Aaron Rodgers has been...
Also, Jesse Ventura is on the top of the list.
Oh, my God. So... Bobby Kennedy wants Rodgers or Ventura to be his running mate.
Or maybe Kennedy just realizes both these guys will talk.
Well, the knock on Kennedy is that he's a little bit of a conspiracy theorist himself, right?
Well, hey, look no further than who's quarterbacking the Jets.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Wow. We are so screwed come November. What are we doing?
Listen, our ratings danger on our show are going to be really, really good for the fall. Not based on what the Bills have said. Nobody wants to deal with it. Okay, let's talk sports.
Yeah.
That's going to be it.
We'll continue to be your escape.
I have to pass that on.
When everything is burning around us. My God, that is a horrible idea. A horrible idea. Last call is next. 866-4326. 866-4FAN if you want to pull up a stool, and we'll let you know who's stopping by the sports bar tomorrow afternoon here on The Fan. Rochester, it's Mike Danger for FanDuel Sportsbook, official partner of 95.7 The Fan. Bet the NBA with a no-sweat same-game parlay from FanDuel every Thursday with TNT Thursdays. It doesn't matter if you're new to FanDuel or if you already have an account. You're going to get bonus bets back if your same-game parlay doesn't win on any NBA on TNT game. NBA same-game parlays are the perfect way to combine your bets for a chance to score a bigger payday. However you want to play, just head to FanDuel.com/Mike. Bet the NBA with a no-sweat same-game parlay with TNT Thursdays. That's FanDuel.com/Mike. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 plus and physically present in New York. Minimum 3-leg parlay required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Max refund $5 unless otherwise specified. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Cold and the wings are hot. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Last call on the Fan, Rochester. Tomorrow on the show, PJ Glasser, the host of BetQL's Send It In.
Now, if you've been with us the last few weeks, we're doing our own bracket, the Baltimore accent bracket, and tomorrow we're going to the basketball region.
That's right. We've had a lot of fun so far. The MLB bracket was won by Placido Polanco. NFL bracket last week. I mean, he's a Baltimore guy, of course. Joe Flacco comes out of the NFL region.
So write to us if you have suggestions for the basketball bracket, because Danger and I, that was our commercial break here. We were just debating names back and forth. I threw one at him. He's like, ooh, that's a deep hole.
Yeah.
So we'll see who makes it in. But again, at The Fan Rochester on X if you have a suggestion.
Yeah, and I know PJ knows a couple that are coming his way. I mean, we've spent a lot of time already this season talking about the play of Dante DiVincenzo. How high of a seed will he be? Well, tune in tomorrow. Oh, we'll also get some winners from the host of Send It In, BetQL, PJ Glasser, and Odyssey Sports Betting Insider Calls presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. We'll also talk more Buffalo Bills tomorrow with Alex Brasky of Bills Digest and Batavia Daily News.
Yeah, so where do the Bills go from here? I'm guessing Brandon Beane will do something between the second we sign off and tomorrow, 3 p.m.
Yeah. Well, we did our best to recap everything of the last 24 hours here in the Sports Bar, and we can't do it without the help of guys like Matt Perino, covers the Buffalo Bills for the Syracuse Post-Standard. He joined us in the 3 o'clock hour. Nice to get a little state of the Amerks as well from Amerks head coach Seth Appert, who joins us every Tuesday afternoon at 4:25. If you missed either of those two conversations from earlier today, search us out wherever you pod the Sports Bar. You can find us inside the free-to-download Odyssey app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Again, wherever you pod. And you mentioned Odyssey Rewind earlier, Gino, inside the free-to-download Odyssey app. You can go back and listen to any part of the show that you may have missed with Rewind. So that's it. The table is set for tomorrow. PJ Glasser at 3:25. Alex Brasky at 4:25. Sabres hockey tonight on the Fan. Detroit. I'm saying it. The fraudulent Detroit Red Wings coming in to KeyBank Center. 7 o'clock, we'll have the action for you here on the Fan. Before we get to Sabres hockey, we'll have the JR Sport Brief next. Thanks for listening to the Sports Bar on the Fan.
You're listening to the